It's that time of year. The air crisp, the trees bare. And just as the winds of change beckon in a new season, same is true in collegiate sports.
The exchange.
What happened? The tables just completely turned.
The gridiron makes way for the hard court as the world awaits that which is the most dramatic of all.
This game is the most unexpected game I have seen in my life.
Rivalries, Davids, Goliaths, and upsets.
Jerry just completely blundered and resigned. Man, Alexander, I was about to give you the biggest hype-up speech.
This is the time of year for brackets, soon to be the time of year we've all come to know as March Madness. And on the 64-square chessboard, some things are different, but some are the same.
Oh my goodness, how is there not double exclam on this move?
The CCL is back as college's best compete for their moment in the sun.
Just immediately blunder and resign.
We did it again,
Oh my
Joe. We
goodness.
jinxed it again.
Will the Billikens of St. Louis University three-peat and cement themselves as a dynasty in collegiate chess?
Huge congratulations to SLU winning the championship.
Or will six-time national champions Webster University bring their championship pedigree to the CCL? There are President's Cup winners, favorites, underdogs, and sure to be plenty of drama. This is the 2024 Collegiate Chess League spring season, and it starts now.
Welcome everyone to week 5 of the 2024 Collegiate Chess League spring season, presented by SIG. I'm Anna Cramling, and I'm gonna be your host today together with Joe Lee. Joe, it feels good to be back. How are you doing? Are you excited for today?
It's great to have you back. We missed you last week, Anna, and I got to fill you in on what happened. But I am so excited for today and for the rest of the season. We only have 3 weeks left of the regular season, and then we have the playoffs. This is the most exciting time of the year.
It is. Like you said, we don't have a lot of weeks left, which means that the stakes are going to be very high today. And we are going to be watching some top-level chess because today we have one of the most exciting weeks of them all because we are going to be seeing the top 4 teams playing. These are the current standings with Webster at the top, followed by St. Louis University, followed by UTRGV, followed by the University of Texas Dallas. And we are going to start today's match by watching UTD versus Webster. So number 1 versus number 4. So Joe, do you think there's going to be a big difference, or do you think that the teams are pretty leveled right now?
I think anything can happen. These teams are so evenly matched, but I do give the nod to the St. Louis schools. They are number 1 and number 2 for a reason. They're both undefeated, and we're just lucky to witness them playing against the top competition in Texas. This is all the top teams of the league we're watching today.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying, that it's literally St. Louis basically versus Texas, as both Webster and St. Louis are obviously located there. I didn't actually know this, Joe. You told me before that Webster is located in St. Louis. I didn't know that, but I think it's super cool. And something that is even cooler is that we're going to be watching GM Harsha today, who is just a fantastic chess player. Last time we saw him in week number 3, he had a perfect score. He won 4 games. Didn't matter that he was facing super strong grandmasters. Didn't matter if he was playing black or white. He just had a perfect score and won all games. And today we're gonna see if he can repeat that.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And I think what's really important is when we look at the lineups for today's matchup, Webster, they're playing their full stack team, their top 4 GMs. We've seen board 4s before, their captain, David, who's a CM, and they've shown Anna Sargsyan, who's an IM. But today, they're bringing their heavy hitters, all 4 GMs, and that includes Harsha, who, as you pointed out, had a sweep of the Mizzou team. That's a Mizzou team with Grandmaster Grigoriy Oparin as board 1 and Mikhail Antipov as board 2. So that is an absolutely incredible score, and I cannot wait to watch him play. And he's not even a top board for Webster. He's board 3.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, there's a reason Webster has won 4 matches, and they are extremely strong. But we're going to be able to see if Texas Dallas is able to beat them. And something that I thought was really fun to see was that a lot of the players at Texas Dallas are actually pretty young. I mean, the board number 4, I think, is like 18 years old. So I think it's just fascinating to see this. But in case you have missed the event previously, then what have you been doing? You should have been here. But this is the format. So we have 8 teams competing in a 7-week round robin. The top 8 teams compete in single elimination playoffs. We're going to be having the semifinals happening March 23rd and the finals March 24th. So it's going to be a fully packed weekend. The first place will get $5,000 and the second place team will be receiving $2,500. So we're going to be seeing the game starting very soon. But like I said, this is literally one of the strongest weeks that we're going to be able to see in this whole season. So this is really a day to not miss because, Joe, now, I mean, the top 2 teams do not want to lose their standings, because there's so little time left.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned it. These last weeks of the regular season are the most critical weeks of the entire season because the stakes are so high. The playoff standings are on the line. And as a reminder, top 2 in the regular season get an automatic qualifier straight to the semifinals. They have a bye in the first week of playoffs. So SLU and Webster are going to do their best to remain undefeated this week and to hold on to those top 2 spots. But I also want to highlight SLU and Webster, regardless of what happens today, they're going to play each other next week. So the last 3 weeks of this regular season are the most critical and the most hype matchups. So I cannot wait. And it's all starting today.
It's all starting today, and we do really want to note that the finals did change from the 30th of March to the 24th. So that is the new date that we have. So like I said, it's going to be fully packed weekend of chess, but we are just so excited. And I feel like it's all kind of starting today. Like you said, Joe, it's going to be really exciting to see what happens in these final weeks. The games are about to start in any moment, but let's get you viewers in chat giving us some predictions. Who do you think is going to win? Is Webster going to be able to get 5 wins, 5 match wins? Is that how they're going to start this season? Or will University of Dallas be able to beat them? What is going to happen? Let us know in the chat, and we will see if you are right or not. What is your prediction, Joe? Am I allowed to ask you that?
Of course. I mean, I already think Webster's going to beat Dallas, but I do want to remind our viewers, Webster, even though they have a perfect season so far, they got really close to their first loss against another Texas team, UTRGV, who we're watching later today. So Rio Grande Valley took them to overtime, right? And then that's when Webster's board 4, Anna Sargisian, different Anna.
I thought you were talking to me.
Yeah. That's why I had to distinguish. But also on the note of the finals dates on March 24th, that is a 1 month from today. Exactly. So mark your calendars. You won't want to miss it.
Exactly. Mark your calendars. And I mean, we will see who will be going. Like the bottom teams, they are a little bit behind, but we do have the University of Missouri that has the same amount of points in terms of wins and losses as Dallas. So do you think that there's any chance that they're able to do a little bit of a comeback, Joe, and get one of the top standings somehow?
I definitely think there's room for a comeback. There's still 3 weeks left in the regular season, and when the playoffs start, that's basically a whole different season. That's when the real season starts, Anna, because no matter how well you do or poorly you do in the regular season, once you make playoffs, that bracket is all that matters because that is what determines the winners and the losers. As you said, there's a lot of prize money on the line. We mentioned $5,000 for first, $2,500 for second, but the Collegiate Chess League in total has $25,000 in prizes for all divisions combined. So there's a lot on the line, but we got to get through these last weeks of the regular season first. And that's why I say it's kind of starting like today, even though we are already over halfway through the season, the key matchups are happening right here, right now. And week 7 is the last week. That's going to determine the final standings for the playoff brackets.
Yeah, no, I am so excited. And I think you mentioned before as well, Joe, that Athens had a really good week last week too, right? So I want to see if they're also able to make a little bit of a comeback. Athens, it feels like they're constantly almost there. They're not able to fully get that win, but they are constantly almost getting there. And it's going to be really exciting to see what happens there too. And then we have, well, University of Chicago and Prague, who unfortunately still hasn't won a match. But I like to be positive and I like to keep my hopes up. And I am hoping that they do win a match very soon.
Yeah, a lot of international fans, definitely some of your viewers specifically, I'm sure, are rooting for them, and it's not over for them yet. Chicago was able to get their first win last week, actually, but they're playing again today against Prague, actually. So another big international matchup there. But yeah, you mentioned Athens had a great week last week. They didn't get the job done, but they did give Dallas a run for their money. That match was so close, 8.5 to 7.5 against Dallas. So this Dallas team, they got their work cut out. They barely squeaked by last week. They're going to definitely have to have a better performance today if they're going to stand a chance against Webster.
Yeah, no, that must have been a big nail biter. I am very sad that I missed it, Joe. I wish that I could have been here, but I heard that Benjamin Bok was here, and I'm sure that he was an amazing host as well. He's also playing the Collegiate Chess League, even though we're not going to be seeing him today, I think. But yeah, just I miss you, Joe. I missed being here. It feels like tradition now every Saturday.
Well, you were very close by, though, not on broadcast, but in proximity. You were visiting LA for the Stream Awards, so I hope that went well. I know you didn't quite get the win, but I'm sure it was still a fun experience.
It was a really fun experience, and you know how it is when you don't get a win, you get more motivated to keep going and to keep pushing and trying to win next year. So that's just what we gotta do, and that is also what all the players gotta do. We are waiting a little bit for them, but the games are going to start in any moment. So I hope that we have the predictions in chat of who you think is going to win. I do think that Webster is looking very, very, very strong this season. I mean, I think they have one of the strongest, if not the strongest, like accuracy out of all the teams, and they've just been having some amazing games. So I think to beat Webster, it's going to be really, really difficult, but we're going to see if that's possible today by Dallas, if they're the ones that are able to do it. But like I mentioned before, Joe, I saw that a lot of players in Dallas are very young, and I think that is really cool. Like, most of the players are either 21, the fourth player is 18 years old. These players, they are professional chess players. They're the top of the top, but they are so young. They're going to college. And, you know, I am so jealous of them because one, they've gone to college. I haven't gone to college. And two, they're much better chess players than I am and than I'll ever be. So these chess players are just absolutely amazing. And it's really fun to witness their games and watch them.
Yeah, well, don't sell yourself short. You might not go to college, but I mean, you're doing great work, spreading the name of the game for chess and going to Stream Awards. I mean, I can't believe I'm commentating with one of the nominees of the Stream Awards back-to-back years as well, and potentially going to be a winner in a later year. So we're still rooting for you. But I think we're going to take a quick break before these games actually start. So definitely stay tuned, and we'll have these games starting soon.
Our once magnificent kingdom of chess lays now in ruins, our king slain. But some say that a new ruler will come and restore the realm to its former glory. Solve puzzles, fight epic battles, and earn gold, swords, and scrolls full of chess wisdom on your way to reclaiming the throne. Download the app today, and this month only, face off against your favorite kingdom character bots. Only on Chess.com.
Hey everybody, it's Danny here, and as you may know, Chess.com and Chessable are now one, and I'm here to show you how you can make your Chess.com and Chessable one in just a few clicks. To start, let's log in and connect our Chess.com account. I just scroll right here above the browser and click login. Scroll down and click continue with Chess.com. Now, if you're already logged into Chess.com, it's just going to ask you if you want to approve that connection. I'm going to say yes, sir. But after approving, it'll bring you right back to the Chessable homepage. Now, the Puzzle Connect feature can be found under Tools, and you click Puzzle Connect. Now, what that does after you type in your username is it's going to pull positions from the games you played on Chess.com, create your very own personalized Chessable course, and then quiz you with the positions where you may have missed the best move. And the more you play on Chess.com, the more games it will have to quiz you as long as your account stays connected. It's pretty sweet, and it's going to help you get better learning from the mistakes in your games. Yes, this is a pro feature at Chessable, but if you go to chessable.com/link, you can get 30 days of Pro for free.
Your subscription makes shows like this possible, which is why our Twitch subscribers will never see ads on Chess.com. Connect your Chess.com account and Twitch account at go.chess.com/connect accounts, and bang, boom, voila, you're done. 100% ad-free bliss forevermore. Whether you're following our events on site or on stream, type the command connect in the chat, and thank you for helping bring these shows to life.
What's the best way to follow any chess event, from the World Chess Championship to the candidates, the Speed Chess Championship, Title Tuesday, and so much more? Chess.com/events has all of the top chess tournaments played both over the board and online. Analyze and review games from the world's greatest players with live commentary, cloud analysis, opening explorer, and table bases. Find all the key event information, including schedules, prizes, results, news reports, player bios, tie breaks, and more. Even compete by voting for your predicted results. Explore chess.com/events today on web or with our iOS and Android apps and experience chess like never before.
I'd classify trading as a game, really, that you're playing with competitors and basically every market participant in the world. My path, I came in as a poker player, but I think that the main thing that everybody has in common is a sense of competitiveness and interest in gaming and strategy in general. Yes, you can actually use gaming skills for your career and for something to do on a day-to-day basis.
We are back now with the 2024 Collegiate Chess League presented by SIG. The games are about to start. We're very sorry that we had to take that little break, but the games are about to start. Joe, are you as excited as I am? I am very excited to see finally some chess going on here.
Yeah, we apologize for the slight delay. I believe the Webster team perhaps thought the wrong time for the start. So, but they're here now, and we're going to start the games as soon as they're ready. Actually, I see one of the games has started. We have board one for Webster, Ram Hakobian getting some moves in against Bolaji Dagupati from Dallas. But yeah, what do you think about Webster being late on a very key matchup here today?
I mean, things happen, obviously, but yeah, they are right now leading the whole league, and they cannot afford losing because of these sort of mistakes. And we were saying it before that this is now one of the most important weeks. Nobody wants to lose one of the top standings. So obviously, Webster doesn't want to make this mistake, but mistakes happen. And typically in chess, you have a 15-minute time frame where you can be late, and we're still within that 15-minute time frame. So they're here now. We're ready to watch some chess, and that's all that matters, I think, Joe.
Yeah, Aram, he wasn't even at the at the board. He got up. Like, these players are definitely caught off guard. So this could be a huge opportunity for Dallas to catch this Webster team maybe sleeping at the wheel. But actually, we've seen it before in other even more serious tournaments. Perhaps we've seen Magnus be late for a lot of his games, and they even have started like his clock on him, and yet he still comes out on top. So maybe Webster's taken a page out of Magnus's book.
Yeah, maybe Magnus has inspired a few people, but I have to say, it's very strange when your opponent comes late. You kind of get this feeling that you're going to beat them, that this is going to be so easy, you're more mentally prepared. But then when your opponent actually is playing good chess, you feel kind of off guard. You're like, I should be doing better here. I'm the one that was here on time. At least I feel like that can sometimes be a little bit of a psychological kind of trick. But let's go ahead and check out the game. We have here Webster's #1 Grandmaster Aram Hakobian playing against the board 4 of Texas Grandmaster Balaji. So we have this position right now. We just saw Bishop F8. The bishop just retreated. And this looks a little bit strange, right? Because it feels like you want to castle this way. You want to castle kingside. It feels a bit strange to go Bishop E7, Bishop F8. But they're playing it so quickly that I would believe that this is some sort of theoretical line. And yeah, I mean, we're seeing the knight on c5 right now, targeting the bishop on a4. So this looks like a very strange position, to be honest. But even the knight on f5, even though it looks very good right now, it's going to very easily be kicked because of d6 and the bishop targeting it. And then it's going to have to move. And I think then the bishop will just move out and we'll see castle. So what do you think about the position, Joe?
I mean, you can kind of see it in the players' faces. Aram was shaking his head. He took a sip of water. Balaji just got both hands on his head, just trying to figure out like what on earth he wants to do. You mentioned this bishop's hanging out. Bishop to f8, just a very awkward, underdeveloping move, preventing castling. So right now the players are kind of having this like knight versus bishop battle. Aram deciding, you know what, I'm going to delay castling because I don't want you to take my bishop, and I'm going to take your bishop next. So figure out how you want to defend this piece, where you want to go. Probably expecting bishop back to b3, where this knight can capture. No. So he trades on his terms and allows Aram to take back, deciding to go for this queen trade. That's actually very surprising.
He is going for the queen trade, but I think the idea of that is just that he wants to let the bishop out. But I do want to note that just a few moves ago, I believe that that white gave up a piece, right? The bishop on a4 was hanging. But the reason black didn't capture that bishop was because I think that after knight takes g7, king f8, bishop h6 could have gone really tricky for that king. Am I wrong, Joe? Was that bishop on a4 not hanging?
Let's see. Knight to f5. Yeah, this is definitely a sacrifice. And as you mentioned, knight takes, forcing the king to f8. Bishop h6 would have been a devastating attack from white. So yeah, not falling for that free bishop. I'm sure a lot of us in chat, myself included, might have been very tempted and fallen for it. But not you, Anna.
Not me, no. And especially not if I'm facing a grandmaster that is giving me that bishop. If that is the case, then I think I would at least question why that's happening. But here we have the current position. They have traded off queens, and I mean, I think that it looks pretty equal, but I think that black is doing very fine. We see now h5 pushing. That pawn is going to try to go to h4, going to try to get a little bit of space there on the king side. White cannot play h4 to stop because the pawn is hanging. So I think that there are some chances for black to slowly but surely be able to push down white. But the one thing that white has is that they have been able to castle the king. The rooks are connected, so black is a little bit behind in development, I would say.
Definitely. And you mentioned being maybe nervous of taking free pieces from grandmasters, but I mean, Aram, maybe he just woke up. Like they're not sure if their match time was now or an hour from now. So maybe this is their opportunity to take advantage of some blunders, perhaps.
I think very much it's going to be. And let's actually go ahead and check out some of the other games, because I see that plenty of games are ongoing, and I'm very curious about what is happening on board number 3. I see a rook that is kind of, an open file. I see a knight that is fantastically placed. I'm very intrigued to see what is going on in this game between Grandmaster Raul and Grandmaster Yasser Perez. So, do you see this knight on c3? Is that not the most beautiful knight you have ever seen, Joe?
That is definitely up there. Honestly, okay, now it's on the edge. So and now it's getting forked. That knight it's a good outpost. Maybe the knight will just come straight back. Oh no, we have an intermezzo counterattack on the rook, and now I guess that pawn can just keep going.
I think the pawn just keeps going. You go b2, rook pretty much has to go to b1, and after that, oh no, you go rook c8. Wow, what a nice move, pinning the bishop, and now threatening to go b2, targeting the rook, and if the rook moves, the bishop is hanging. So d5, defending the bishop, but now all of a sudden, that knight is not hanging anymore, so you get an extra tempo to see if you have time to do something. So we see now, wow,
Okay.
knight c5, defending the pawn, and now I think the idea is going to be to go rook b8, and then just to try to, as much as possible, push down that pawn, or even go knight d3, b2, and then I just want to get the rook to a1 somehow, or to c1, but that bishop on c6 is stopping all those things. But we see now bishop b5, stopping knight d3, rook b8 with a tempo, targeting the bishop, threatening also to go b2, and maybe we will be able to see, we just need to get a knight to c3 somehow. I'm not sure how we do it, but if we get a knight to a3 or c3, then it's just lost for white. And I say we, but I'm talking about Yasser. He needs to do that.
Anna's showing her allegiance here to Webster. Let's go. No, Anna just wants to see good chess. And when you have a passed pawn, you want to push it. And that means supporting that pawn, right? Right now it's defended by the knight. It's supported by the rook. So now we can get to b2. We see the bishop tucking back all the way to f1, a defensive move, just covering d3 like you mentioned. But these knights, they're going to hop in and deliver perhaps the final blow. You mentioned c3, d2 is another strong square. a3 is a tough square to get to, but rest assured, Yasser Quesada Perez is on the push here. b2 played, and now we see the knight getting kicked out, but maybe this helps black reroute the knights. And no, ignoring it entirely. There you go.
Wow. Okay, this is getting crazy. Joe, I have some great news for you though. And
What's
that
that?
is that everybody showed up from Webster. We thought that there might be one of the boards that might have to be forfeited, which would be very, very sad, obviously. For Webster, great chance for Dallas, but very sad to, kind of lose in that way. But all the players have shown up, and we have 4 working games right now, and I think that is fantastic. So we see now that the rook had to be sacrificed, but I kind of wonder if Yasser got so excited about winning, getting that rook, that right now, I mean, white has a bishop and a knight, and I just don't really see if this is going to be as good as it was before. Knight d3 stops rook c1, targets the pawn. I mean, the knight and the bishop are very strong together, and even though rooks are great in endgames, the knight and the bishop, I think, are going to be able to coordinate together with that d pawn that's just going to be pushing down the board. I don't know if Jasper's winning this anymore, Joe.
Yeah, that was actually a really critical moment when White played for f4. That was the decision where Yasser Quesada Perez decided to give up his knight to win the rook. But now, as you pointed out, 2 minor pieces versus a rook. This should be good for White. And look at these pawns now. 2 pawns in the center. This bishop's going to take on f5 when the time is right. But I do think knight d3 here is pretty much necessary. But yeah, I'm not sure. We see the king up, but now rook here. I guess you're going to give up the piece for the pawn.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the idea now is just to go b1 and then just trade the bishop for that. But I think that white is just an exchange down, and white has some pawns. We're talking about 2 extra pawns for that exchange, and I don't see, like I said before, how black is going to win this, because if you just trade all of the pawns, then it's probably going to be a draw. So black needs to get some pass pawn or something to be able to win this, and from this position it doesn't look like they're going to be able to do this. So huge blow from Webster. It looked like they were going to win, but we don't know, although this is a very nice maneuver. Rook takes d5.
Wow.
Bishop takes was not possible because of the promotion, and now black is getting back some pawns. This could be actually a turning point in the game, and the rook coming back to go to c1. This was very, very, very nice by Jasser. I was just about to say that maybe this kind of showing up late thing showed in this game, but Jasser is now making the comeback and is just doing some fantastic moves.
Yeah, the fight is unreal. We see a lot of people would have promoted and just won the piece, but no, this rook continued to grab. We pointed out how awesome those pawns were. That rook snagged both of them in just 2 moves and is not done yet, still harassing these pieces. And I mean, Perez, he's pushing on the clock as well. Look at this, 1.5 to just 16 seconds.
It is, yeah, this game is going to be very exciting to follow. I do want to say that we already have a result. First win is by Dallas. So game number 4, we had Grandmaster Balaji beat Aram Hakobian, which is a huge result. Board 4 beating board 1. Isn't that absolutely insane?
That is an insane shock to this Webster team. Showing up late and Dallas taking advantage. I mean, what happened in this game? Looks like Aram just blundered early.
Yeah.
We saw this H-pawn pushing, and what happened?
And we believed in it, but then, oh wow, the king being in the center.
Wow.
And then he just blundered the rook. Yeah, wow, that's...
He forgot he moved his king to the d file, allowing this intermezzo check on d1 and blundering a rook. So really rough start for Webster. This could be their first loss of the season.
Let's check out game number 1 as well. I'm seeing right now board 4 by Webster is facing board 1 by Dallas, and it looks like the board 4 by Webster has a better position, which would be crazy if the both board 4s won. I mean, it should be the most difficult game of them all, the board 4 facing board 1, but today that might not be the case. Let's see what's happening here.
Yeah, and both these players are less than a minute. I do want to point out, you mentioned board 4 upsetting board 1, but with these teams and the caliber of players that they have on their rosters, a lot of their players are kind of interchangeable with how strong they are. And Dallas, we saw them play last week and squeak out a win. Their captain, and Andre Makove, he was their board 4, and today they have him at board 2. So you can definitely tell these teams are pretty evenly strength. It doesn't matter so much what board number they are. They're all very talented. Most of them are GMs. I think Makove, actually from Dallas, is the only player that's not a GM. He's an international master, but can still beat them just like the rest of them. And in this position, are we going to see a perpetual?
That's what I'm thinking. The king is going back and forth. Maybe Cantor doesn't really know that he's so much better, and he just wants to draw to get a draw against board number 1. And that is what happens, right? It finishes in a draw.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think that should be all the games. So big results from the board 4s for both teams. A draw for Webster and a win for Dallas. Their board 4s getting points early. And because of that, we see Dallas with the lead, 2.5 to 1.5 after this first round. Webster's still waking up.
Webster is still waking up, and this is a huge, huge, huge win by Dallas. But I think even one of the most surprising results here is the fact that Harsha lost. Grandmaster Harsha lost to Andrew McAvey, and that is huge because last time we saw him, he had a perfect score of 4 out of 4. So going from 4 out of 4, beating 4 Grandmasters, and now in game number 1, losing to, well, an international master who's obviously still very strong, but still, is obviously a big upset. So I don't know what's happening, Joe. I don't know if they need to wake up or what is happening, but this might be Dallas' chance to rise in the standings if they're the first team to be able to bring down Webster, the favorite of this season pretty much at this point.
Yeah, 1 point lead is huge for Dallas, but it is only the first round. Still 3 rounds to go. Webster's still, as we said, waking up. But if I was one of those bettors in chat betting on Webster, I would definitely be feeling pretty nervous right now.
I would be feeling very nervous. If you've spent channel points on your decision, I would be shaking right now because Dallas does have a very good chance. We're going to see round number 2 happening at any point. Like you said, there's still 3 rounds to go, so anything can happen, but a 1 point lead is still very, very, very huge. And Webster needs to make a change to make a comeback. But I still think that the most surprising result is Aram Hakobian losing in that way in that first game. And obviously this can happen. Even if you're a grandmaster, you can blunder a rook. That is the beautiful thing about chess. We're all humans. And this should inspire you watching this, that even if you blunder rooks, even grandmasters at this level do it too. But still, it's always shocking in a way to see it happening.
Yeah, and we have round 2 starting here. We've got Harsha versus Ivan. This is top board from Dallas. And Harsha, as we mentioned, getting his first loss of the season for himself so far. So rough start. And you pointed out Aram Hakobian, their top board, also getting lost. So the heavy hitters for Webster are not hitting. They're getting hit, and they gotta hit back.
They do. That is what you gotta do if you're a heavy hitter. You gotta hit. But we're going to see what happens here if Harsha is able to make a comeback. We saw Ivan now getting a draw against board number 4. So maybe Ivan is not having so far a great day either. We see this move G4 just happening, which is a shocking move in the sense that you're just not castling, you're giving up a pawn, and you're kind of saying, I am going to go for a crazy attack. Because you cannot castle anymore on the king side as white. That dream is gone. You gotta go h4, h5, and just push, just run.
Yeah, Ivan, he's showing Harsha how to hit with the H pawn and G pawn, the 1-2 combo, and he's delaying his castling. He's just bringing the attack, and he's got the white pieces, so why shouldn't he attack? I love it.
I love it too, and this is my favorite way of playing chess. If I could play chess like this every game, I would, and maybe I should actually. Maybe Ivan will inspire me to do that, especially if he wins now and beats someone as strong as Harsha. But I wonder how this is going to affect him psychologically for Harsha, that he lost that first game after getting so many wins last time. I mean, you might almost feel unbeatable when you get 4 wins against grandmasters.
Yeah, well, Dallas here has proven he is beatable, and beatable by their captain, Andrew McAvey, who was their board 4 international master. I guess he promoted himself. We did interview him last week when we watched their match, and it was a close match. We actually saw Ivan blunder a complete rook. So you did miss a bit last week, but you're here back now, and maybe Ivan's a little warmed up, and maybe Harsha's a little rusty, right? Hasn't played since week 3, and now it's week 5. So it's a long season. Anything can happen. And plus they're blitz games, right? So all this like talk of IM versus GM, like right now they're both GMs, but pretty much anything can happen at any point.
And that's the most exciting part, I think, that these games are so short. There is the time pressure and anything can happen. And we just saw now F5 being played by Black. And I really like that move because it's sort of saying, hey, I'm not going to let you kind of push me down. So you're taking some space at the same time as you're not really weakening your king, especially because that A2, G8 diagonal is covered by pawns. So you can't really get a bishop in or any other piece that would put that king in danger. So we're seeing now Ivan, he's playing bishop b2. He will probably move up his queen and then go long castles. But black is now putting in the pressure. f4, threatening to open up the file for the rook, trying to get some counterattacks and punishing white for developing so slowly and going for these pawn pushes early on. So I actually am starting to like black more and more. I think that this was a very clever way for Harsha to play this.
Yeah, I love how black has just remained calm. I know a lot of people after a move like g4 would hesitate to castle, but black castled, said bring it. g5 hitting the knight back, knight to e8, very calm, underdeveloping move, seems passive, but I love it. f5, f4, queen opposite the king, saying you haven't castled yet, but white developing the queen and looking ready to castle long. But maybe black has an opportunity to take advantage of this.
Yeah. And we see also this bishop on a7 that I almost didn't see because it's hiding over there. But that bishop on a7 is very much targeting the center. And it's actually a really, really, really well-placed piece. And I just kind of feel like even after white castles, I mean, if black is able to get a bishop onto f5 somehow, I feel like a lot of the light squares are going to get very weak. And if you get a bishop up to f5, you might get e4. And you might start being the one pushing down white. So I don't really see how Ivan's attack is going to continue here. You have to go h5, maybe g6 or h6. But the problem is that whatever pawn push you do, the opponent is just going to push the pawn. And there's not really any breakthrough right now. So I think that is the biggest problem that he has at this moment in time. Maybe we should check out some of the other games too, Joe. I'm seeing game number 4 between Jasser and Balaji looking like there's a crazy attack going on. And I am wondering if this game is going to end soon. I mean, look at that pawn on h6.
Yeah, I mean, this eval bar is skyrocketing and they're only on move 15. So maybe we take a quick look at how this actually came about.
Yeah, I am very intrigued to see that. So, because it looks like it was a pretty normal opening, with nothing crazy. No g4, no h4, no. But
Yeah, this is out of a Sicilian. This is an Alpin, which is an opening that I actually play myself, although perhaps not as well as these players. But we see white just taking space in the center. We see h5, kicking the knight back, and now this knight is just getting in, controlling these dark squares with the pawn.
Yeah, that is a fantastic knight. And it feels a bit strange that black allowed this h5 move with a tempo. But wow, that knight on f6 is just a monster. You know something's gone wrong if you have a knight on... if you allow your opponent to have a knight up on f6, stopping your castles, protect the knight. Almost impossible to get it out. And now the queen is coming up to d2. The threat is h6. Gonna win that pawn. Gonna try to maybe target f7 after that with knight g5. And all of white's pieces are coming in, and that king is staying weak for the rest of the game. It's going to take very long to get the rooks connected. I don't even know how you're going to do it with the knight on f6 because you can't go knight d7, king d7, sorry.
Yeah, so this is definitely a good board for Webster. Looks like Yasser Quesada Perez is going to have to pick up for his teammates and lead the way here for a comeback, which I feel like it's too early in the match to really say. But Webster is down a point, so they need points to even things back up. And reminder, you guys, Webster's perfect so far this season. They have a lot on the line, and to lose to Dallas would be a huge dagger to their season so far. And their captain, I don't know, maybe a miscommunication. Also, like Aram Hakobian, we mentioned his interview. They have a lot to live up here.
They do. They said in one of the previous interviews that they were the favorites of the season. So they came here to win. And to do that, they need to keep winning the matches, and losing to team number 4 would obviously, or the team that's right now ranked 4th in the standings, Dallas, would not be great for them, obviously. So they really want to win today, and they have a lot to live up for, like you said, Joe. So we're going to see what happens in this game. Let's maybe check out some of the other games too. We can maybe see what is happening on game number 3, as Aram Hakobian seems to be losing again against Grandmaster Rahul Srivastava. I am so sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but losing to board number 3 of Dallas. So let's see what's happening here.
Yeah, and we see Aram. He's looking off camera. He's shaking his head. He's holding his head. I mean, same kind of signs and symptoms. This is definitely not Aram in his usual comfortable state. He is not feeling great. Less on time. I mean, look at the eval bar. He's got his rooks are forked by this knight. Although it was pinned. So the queen comes back, and now even if he does take the knight, guess what? There's a second knight that's going to replace it. And yeah, I mean, White's just losing material here.
White is just losing material here. Once again, the rook. And yeah, it's just so painful when two knights coordinate like this. We see him looking to the side, almost realizing that he's losing this game most probably. And I think that he just probably needs to, after the break, just kind of regroup himself, and then hopefully he'll be able to come back in round 3 and 4 of this match. But we see now that the rook on d1 is hanging, but if knight takes d1, then the queen can capture the knight on d5. And we see that the knight on d1 doesn't have a lot of places to go to. So this is a tricky way of playing. And he's trying to do the best in the situation. Anyways, we see the rook on d1 being picked up. And the question now is, how do you get that knight out? And are we speaking too early? There's knight b2, the bishop all the way from g7 protecting it. But now maybe Aram is getting a little bit of counterplay. Knight g5 threatening queen takes f7.
Yeah, I mean, Aram's position wasn't looking great, but I love what he's doing with it. He's doing the best with what he has, right? He's making it tricky, making life hard for the knight to retreat, playing rook to b3. He's bringing his knight in. He's targeting f7 continually. Black is defending it. I mean, now can we try to win this knight somehow, or is the knight just escaping? Can we play bishop c3? No, we're going to lose our knight here is also defended. So tricky position still, and I think Raul is going to be able to convert this.
Yeah, I think so too. But I do like that Aram is just playing so aggressively, and it looks like he's now getting his hope back up. I mean, you can see a lot from body language, right? And he's now looking a little bit more excited, like he still has something in this game, and I love to see them, as he's just a really, really, really strong player, obviously. So it's not over at all. Knight e4 now. I think he's going to try to maybe go bishop c3 at some point, even though he's not winning the knight. I think that he wants to trade those bishops to get a knight up to f6 maybe. Try to get some counterplay in that way and try to play against the king. So we'll see if he's able to do so.
Rook takes, and now there's some back rank issues you got to worry about. So I was wondering, okay, he makes some lift for the king, g2. But I was wondering if, like, instead of bringing the knight back, if White could have continued trying to attack and induce some pawn weaknesses, perhaps. But instead we see knight e4. And yeah, I mean, Aram's only got 13 seconds. Even if he's leaning forward here, you can see he's really trying to concentrate, trying to find some sort of trick, some sort of resource to get himself back into it. It's tough. It's maybe perhaps a little too late in the position.
Yeah, definitely just a very bad position for him. But both of the players are getting low on time, and I don't see Raul blundering as a complete out of this world situation. Things can happen. So let's go ahead and see g3, h6.
Oh. Wow.
Okay.
Look at this.
What?
Oh my god, that's a fork.
Wow.
Wait, he's in check. Wait. Okay. What's happening? Did Aram just completely bring this back around? It's anyone's game.
The moment we said it, it's anyone's game. There's
Bishop c3.
Bishop c3, winning the bishop almost.
He takes I mean, no, this is a monster bishop. The king goes to h7, a huge blunder from Raul.
And the knight is gone now. The knight is gone. The extra piece is gone. Wow. The knight comes back. Now all pieces are targeting the king. This is the comeback. He's going to win. Aram is bringing it home.
Unbelievable. Raul's going to flag. Wow. What a comeback. And they're both shocked.
Insane. Look at his face. Wow. We did not expect that. Joe, this is like the opposite of the jinx. I said maybe he'll be able to bring it back, and in that second, he just crushes it. He just makes the comeback of the century.
comeback of the century from Webster versus Dallas here. Aram Hakobian proving that he's not done. I mean, he had a rough start and he was getting forked. He was losing. Everything looked in his opponent's favor, but he did not give up on that play and he brought back the win. So Webster, they're back in and they're actually leading the match right now, but there is one last game.
Yeah, let's check out the game that is still ongoing. If Dallas wants to tie the score, they need to win this game. And it does look like Balaji now has been able to get a much better position. It looked like Jasper had a great opening, but something happened and Balaji was able to now just get, I mean, wow, a almost winning position. I mean, we're seeing right now it's the same amount of pieces, but White's king is just so weak. And knights and queens work fantastically well together. There's lots of tricks always with them.
Yeah, I mean, this is knight versus bishop endgame. Oh, forcing the queen trade. So, yeah, this looks good for the knight. This pawn is going to tie
How
this
do you
bishop
stop
down.
it?
Yeah.
The bishop is never going to be able to move. That's the problem. But white has this a pawn. So you cannot move the knight too much because then the pawn is going to be lost as well. But I really like how the knight is stopping the king from entering the game. And now black is slowly but surely bringing up the king. And I think now with the king and the knight being so close to the pawn, black is just going to get another pass pawn and white just has no counterplay.
Yeah, I love how black's playing this. Taking the knight, and now the e-pawn's going to join.
It is. I'm just wondering now what happens if you go a5.
No, that's mate.
Oh, it's a checkmate. That is so beautiful.
So
Wow.
Balaji, he's bringing it back for Dallas. We have a match here, folks. Tied 4-4 at halftime. And really nice finish there saying, hey, listen, I'm going to let your a-pawn queen, but I'm going to have a second pawn here to deliver checkmate.
Beautiful checkmate. I think pawn checkmates are some of the most beautiful checkmates out there. And we have to say that this match just really turned around when Aram Hakobian was able to win that game. I mean, can we just really quickly do, I wanted to maybe show it on the board, Joe, but it doesn't matter. We'll keep going. Absolutely fantastic score. 4-4. Yeah, I am in shock. I almost need to rewatch it at some point, those seconds, because it's crazy I was able to bring that back. But we have 2 rounds to go. Anything can happen in these final 2 rounds. We are going to be getting a winner. Will Webster win? Will Dallas win? It's tied right now. We will see that very soon. Keep letting us know in the chats who you think is going to win today. And yeah, Joe, are you excited for the final 2 rounds?
I mean, I cannot wait because this is an absolute coin flip right now. And you mentioned wanting to see a replay of Aram's comeback. If he lost that, if his opponent could have held on, they'd be down by 2 points, 5-3. But no, Aram comes back, keeps his team in it. They're tied 4-4. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. We're going to be continuing the rounds very soon. Team Chess Battle continues tomorrow, February 26th. It's a face-off of commentary duos as Robert Hess and Danya Naroditsky take on Peter Svidler and John Gustafsson. The teams will banter their way through the match with $25,000 on the line. But who will advance into the semifinals? Tune in tomorrow to find out and use !battle in chat for everything you need to know. We have more CCL Team Chess right after this break.
We have Magnus Carlsen's most incredible moments as world champion. This one right here is Vishwanathan Anand with the white pieces versus Magnus Carlsen in 2013. Here we go. So this is a Nimzo Indian, famous variation, right? And the last move here was B3 from Magnus, just saying, hey man, I'm trying to queen this pawn. And of course, Anand is saying, I'm trying to mate your king. Cool, you can get your little queen. I'm just gonna try to checkmate you, right? So of course, this is a hint to move F5, B3. And he's like, cool, Viswanathan Anand says, hey, okay, you can get this queen. I'm going to try to go for mate. So he goes queen f4, get another piece in the game. This looks very, very dangerous here. Knight c7. What the heck is going on? Knight to c7. He thought it'd be something spectacular. He was like, yeah, I'm waiting for this one. But it's just knight to c7. Defensive move. Cool. Allows f6 to happen here. f6 is going to take on g7. It's going to be kind of annoying, scary things happening with knight h5. Magnus plays g6. Okay, it's locked up. It's going to be scary if a queen gets to h6. Also, if the queen and a rook get to the h file, it's going to be a wrap for black here. Magnus is going to be mated. Okay, cool. So Magnus understands that. Vishy Anand understands that too and plays queen to h4. Where is he going, class? h6, right? He's about to mate. He's also trying to get the rook over here too as well. Okay, cool. With that being said, your move. What do you do now? It's black to move. Here's the move. Hence, knight c7 to put the knight on e8. The saying goes, a knight on e8 is actually f8. That's is what they say. There is no mate. Anand understands this. He said, oh, there's no more mate. That's cool. I'm going to put my queen right here. What I'm trying to do is bring the rook up to f3 or f4 and actually go for this mate on h7 because you stopped the g7 mate. That's cool. Perfect. Well, Magnus understands this. So what does Magnus do in this position? Black to move. Here it is. Magnus says, cool, you want mate? Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Go for it. b2. Do your thing, big fella. Go ahead, Viswanathan Anand. So he says, okay, I will, young fella. Rook f4. He goes here and he's going for rook h4 mate. Wow. This is scary. Well, are you going to get your queen? You did all of this. Are you going to get your queen or not? Of course we are. b1 queen. Right, and after b1 queen, knight to f1 from Anand. And the move here that seals the deal is what, guys? There's two queens on the board. Magnus has two queens, but is he getting mated or not? It's black to move. He goes queen e1, and then the game is over. The game ended right here, believe it or not. There is no more PGN, right? What do you mean, queen e1? What sense does that make? Well, let's see what happens. The idea here is after queen e1, where were you putting your rook? h4. Well, I can just go rook h4, but guess what? After I capture it, queen sacrifice, sacrificing one of my two queens. After queen takes h4, let's do a piece count. You have a queen, you have a bishop, and a knight. I have a queen, a bishop, a knight, and a rook, guys. So after that, this is done, right? I have an extra piece, an extra rook, and there's no mate here. So that's a resignation. And Magnus wins. That's incredible, right?
Welcome everyone to week 5 of the 2024 Collegiate Chess League spring season presented by SIG. You are right now watching Texas Dallas versus Webster University, but don't go anywhere because up next we have St. Louis University facing the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, and that is going to be a very exciting match as they're right now ranked in the standings 2nd and 3rd. But before we go for round 3 of Dallas versus Webster, Joe, I wanted to see a little replay of that Aram Jacobian game because that is what really turned the tables. I mean, if he would have lost this game and he was completely lost, it would right now be 5-3 for Dallas. So let's take a little slower look at what happened to make him win that game.
Yeah, we actually see Raul here is forking. Actually, Aram puts the rook into danger, into a fork, because the queen is pinned this knight. So the knight cannot take either rook because of the pin, but we see this nice move, the queen retreating out of the pin. And now this is where Aram really felt like he was losing this game, but he finds some really key moves, lifting his rook, making life very difficult for this knight, capturing on d1. He gives up the knight on d5, and now we see the knight trying to use the protection of the bishop. But as white kept fighting and complicating the position, we saw some key moments where Raul lets the advantage slip. And right here, rook up to the 2nd. This rook grabbing a pawn, giving up control to the 7th. We're threatening mate in 2 here. So we see f5, another big weakness in Raul's position. Aram now targeting these loose pieces. And the final mistake, in my opinion, king h7, putting the king into the 7th rank, pinning this bishop. Now, this would be a free knight, but instead going with the bishop, taking the knight, and now bringing in the last piece, the knights. We see this game ending. I mean, complete comeback. He lost on time here. So Aram with a huge win.
Wow. Yeah, huge win. I feel like it all started going wrong when he picked up that pawn on a2 as well, as he lost control of the 7th rank, like you said. So, yeah, I guess that Raul didn't think that there was any danger, but you never know when there is danger coming upon you, and especially when you're facing someone as strong as Aram Hakobian. But now we have round number 3 starting, and it is 4-4 tied. So very close match so far. Anything can happen, and we are going to be getting a winner, because if this ends up being tied after these 2 rounds, this will be going to tie break. So we are getting a winner today amongst these 2 teams, and we see that the games are starting. Joe, do you maybe want to start with game number 1, see what happens between Jasser and Ivan, board 1 versus board 2?
Definitely. Let's check it out. These 2 players have just started. We have Yasser Quesada Perez with the white pieces. He's playing a Spanish, a Roy Lopez. So bishop to d6, blocking the d pawn. How do you feel about this opening choice from Ivan?
I feel like it looks a bit passive. Obviously, you typically want to push that d pawn. I'm wondering if the idea is to move the knight on c6 and then be able to go c6, bishop c7, and then like d5. And then all of a sudden, you have the bishop on the right diagonal. Or you go bishop f8 and you just completely ignore everything that I said. And that is also very much way of doing it. So I still feel like maybe d5 is a move you want to do at some point. I don't know if you want to do it immediately. Maybe you want to first go bishop e6 and prepare it. But it feels like that is the kind of push you want to aim for as black here.
Yeah, definitely trying to control the center. But here we see bishop back to f8. This is a common defensive move. This is a nice bishop guarding some dark squares around the king. We see the bishop coming out, breaking the pin, looking for some bishop trade here. So this is a strong bishop, pointing right at the king. And we see Ivan just calmly developing and trying to neutralize White's strong pieces. Right now, it's actually really symmetrical with a lot of these pieces in the center. We see knight hopping into d5, offering another trade. It's pretty even so far.
It is. But here you cannot trade as black, as that would be a fork on your knight and rook. So the rook comes back, and now the question is, will you trade as black or not? At first, I actually thought that black was going to capture on e6 with the pawn, but that would just weaken, I think, the light squares a little bit too much after something like knight h4. So that's why I think Ivan opted to take with the rook. We see now c4. Jasser is really reinforcing that knight on d5, and now if you capture it with black, c takes would be very strong, as the c7 pawn would forever be a backwards pawn. So these are the small nuances that you think about at this level that really just determine the game. If you get a little advantage, such as a backwards pawn that you can play against, that can literally make you win the game at this level. So we see a lot of nuances all the time. The knight is now rerouting, obviously wants to go to f4, can't really do it right now. And now also you can go c6 maybe as black to finally eliminate that really strong knight from d5. So it's kind of a really close battle, I would say, at this point.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tension here in the center. We see black clarifying that, taking on d4. This opens up the rook. This frees the e5 square for one of these 2 knights. I like this this trade here for Ivan. This is helping Yasser Quesada Perez, though, help develop this bishop. Could have taken with a knight as well. But we are opening up our rook, and there's your c6 idea from black, forcing the knight back. Yeah, these 2 players trading these moves here, and their pieces in the center, very close, very even, and they're both keeping pace on the clock as well. I definitely think that I could use some of this theory in my own response against the Roy Lopez, because this is one of the openings I struggle with.
I am starting to really like this bishop d6 idea after seeing this. And what I also feel like is that white has pushed a lot of their pawns, but that c4 pawn, that could be a weakness. It's really difficult to defend it, as you cannot defend it with any pawn anymore, so you have to use your pieces to defend it. But do you really want to have your queen defending a pawn that's attacked by a knight? That kind of puts the queen in an awkward position. So I'm starting to like this more and more for black. The queen comes up to f6. There's maybe some knight f4 ideas now very soon. And yeah, I quite like this. We're seeing now he's taking with the pawn because he wants to bring up a knight to f4. The queen targeting a little bit the knight on c3 too. a5, kind of asking, what are you going to do with your queenside pawns? If you let black capture on b4, then I think those pawns could maybe become a little bit weak, especially that b4 pawn. And now we see c5. So yeah, I think that this has been a really instructive game, actually.
Yeah, these players are keeping it very close, very even, and I love how quickly they're both playing as well, because as soon as a player gets uncomfortable and starts to think, that's when the other player is going to use that time advantage to their advantage. So every move so far has been answered, and as you can see, it's still an even position, but Yasser, he's starting to think now. And wow, b5, this is a very committal move. He's keeping the a file closed. He's looking for some trades, but his c pawn perhaps is going to be isolated now.
Yeah, and I've kind of gotten the feeling that Yasser, he is a doer. Like, he likes to do things at the board. So he seems to really like playing very actively. And we saw him getting some kind of aggressive openings before. So I feel like this is kind of his style of playing. And maybe at some point when he doesn't really know exactly what to do, he goes for these sort of moves that are really active, but that also leave a little bit more of a forced position where there's going to be maybe a forced line. So it is a little bit of a more dangerous way of playing. But we can maybe check out some of the other games too. We have many games that are ongoing. We could check out game number 2, Aram Hakobian versus Andrew McAvey. Aram Hakobian, who started with a loss, looked like he was going to get another loss in game number 2, turned that around, and now let's see what he does in game number 3. He's facing Andrew McAvey. It's the two team leaders facing each other right now, and let's see how the position is. Wow.
Yeah,
king on f8, queen h7, right?
I mean, that's definitely the enticing move that I want to play. But we'll see. I mean, these two pieces are defending the rook on e1. This queen was attacking it, but the queen is also defending d4. So we see rook e3 in preparation for the queen to come in. The queen's not in any rush, because if the king tries to come, well, that queen's backed up by a bishop. So king is on f8 for now. We're threatening a check here, forcing a knight block, and then perhaps the bishop will join in that attack. Not very fun for this king, because the king's also guarding g7. So knight comes back to g8 preemptively. But, I mean, are we going to see the same idea? Because if the king runs, then the queen's going to pick up on g7.
Yeah, this is the sort of position where sometimes the king is fine on e7, sometimes it's just completely losing. But very luckily for black, white doesn't have any dark squared bishop anymore. If they had it, this, I would say, would pretty much be over. But because there's no dark squared bishop, it is a little bit harder to attack that king on e7. However, what white will try to do is maybe pick up that pawn on g7. Like you mentioned, try to bring in the rooks, and maybe just if they win the pawn on g7, the pawn on h6 becomes very weak as well. If you win the pawn on h6, all of a sudden your h5 pawn is very close to promoting. So I do think that this looks really good. And I'm wondering right now, how do you defend g7 if you go rook g4 in this moment? What does black reply? We're going to see it now because Aram is asking the same question. He does the move. What will Andrew reply? What do you do to stop queen takes g7?
I don't think you can. Yeah, Andre's trying to trade this off, but of course, I mean, this is just hanging. So, yeah, this is looking lovely for white, and this is Aram taking advantage of. We see another pawn grab from a Dallas player, taking on a3, but missing this threat. g7 is a huge weakness, and now we see rook takes. completely
Wow.
ignoring the D1 rook with check, king H2, and he's saying, what are you doing about this king?
That is beautiful because after king H2, I mean, you're not winning the rook back. It's just that black's king is very weak. But if you go king E7 now, then there's rook takes F7. That is the problem, and you're getting almost no, without the almost, you are getting checkmated.
Yeah.
King E8, queen takes G8, and yeah, it's just going to be a checkmate. So I think the game is now going to be over. Queen takes G8, or rook takes G8. You have queen F8. So is the idea then rook takes G8, king E7?
The computer wants to take queen block and then just queen straight back to H7, threatening rook G8, winning the queen.
With the same idea, and then you probably have to go king E7. And I do think that this is the best way Andre could play, though. I really like this move, king E8. Very sneaky move, allowing the queen to come back. But Joe, would you say that the moral of the story is do not always pick up pawns, do not always be greedy in chess?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a fan of the pawn grabber club, but sometimes when your opponent has these really strong attacks, like in this game, allowing rook G4, that's definitely a huge advantage for white. And in Aram's last game that we just highlighted, the rook capture of the a-pawn allowing white to take the 7th. And we see, I mean, Aram, he's sticking to this. He's playing the best moves. He found a nice response. And just to give people an idea, if rook takes, the position would only have been about +2. Right now, we see it's +5. So he's going to take this. He's going to get the queen in. This is essentially over. Okay, knight coming in, threatening a fork, taking advantage of the pin on the 7th. Not in a rush to take this, but perhaps a queen move to get out of this. But still not looking good at all.
I mean, it looks like you're almost getting checkmate after knight G6. King D7, rook takes F7. King C6, the king is running up because king C8, it would have been a checkmate with the rook and the queen. So king C6 is the only option. And this is now going to be insane. Rook C7 check? Is the king going... I guess the king is then going to B5, because if king D5, I think there's knight F4, which is almost a checkmate. So, wow, this is insane. The king is going to be at the middle of the board, still with the queens and the rooks. And what black is saying is, if you don't checkmate me, I do have an exchange. But I mean, I do think that Aram is going to be able to convert this. But wow, rook takes A7, trying to bring in the queen. This may not be as over as we thought it was, Joe.
Yeah, this is an absolute witch hunt right now. And here we have a mistake allowing for this trade. The computer hates this for Andre, but he's got low time, less than 20 seconds, and the players don't know that. I think that if they trade off the queens, then it looks like, okay, black is up in exchange. How bad can that be? But far from over this game.
Far from over. I think that if we don't look at the eval bar and we only look at this practically, I think that there's some chances. So I want to see... Oh, they're trading! They're trading!
Yeah, but this is good for Andre, and Aram's only got 5 seconds.
Only 5 seconds. What? Will Andre be able to find something? This is such a difficult position to play with little time.
Your king has no squares. Here's a check. King's on the run.
King's
There's more
on
check.
the run.
You can also just push the h-pawn. He's going for a new queen.
He is going to try to make a new queen, and how do you stop it? There's no checks for black. That knight on G6 is stopping everything.
The knights are such good defenders. Typically, you see the knight next to the king, so we see the queen attacking, but here's a check, another check.
Just to gain some extra time.
Queen back to defend, and you're not stopping this pawn.
No, you're not. The pawn is going to be a queen. What an insane way of finishing this game. We thought it was going to be through a checkmate. It's through getting an extra queen. Andre is shaking his head.
He gives up his queen to take the rook.
What?
It's still not over yet.
Was that a blunder? Was that supposed to be the way it was?
It was a difficult position because his queen was defending the knight and his queen was hit by the rook. So he decides to trade, and he's going to try to play with just the extra knight.
but that should still be completely enough. And now Andre loses on time. So Aram wins that game, taking a point for Webster. But we can see that in the first game as well, game 1, Jasser beat Ivan Sheko. So actually, there's 2 points for Webster now. Webster is killing it so far this round.
Yeah, Webster, rough start in round 1, but they're definitely back in it. So let's take a look at the last 2 games remaining. Perhaps we take a look at Balaji versus Harsha here.
Let's do that. Balaji has had a fantastic match so far. I think he's won the first 2 games, right? So he's had a fantastic match. Let's see what's going on now versus Harsha. Harsha, once again, the person that beat 4 grandmasters in a previous week, taking a perfect score. Today has been a little bit less perfect, but let's see what happens. This is looking like a pretty drawish endgame, simply because even though black was a pawn up, I mean, obviously that pawn was very easy to take. And there was a winning rook h1. No?
Oh my goodness. In time pressure, anything can happen. Black is up 2 pawns, but missed maybe a winning, a forcing line there.
Wow. Joe, was it rook h1? What was the winning line there?
Oh my gosh. Let's take a look real quick. Slow motion replay. I think yeah, rook h1 was winning.
Yeah,
this
rook
rook on
h1.
a2. Nicely
rook
found.
h2.
A
Wow.
nice skewer. Instead, we see the players agree to a draw.
What a switch. What a change. Wow. That could have turned completely the other way, but you see what time scramble does to you. And the final game, game number 3, finishes as well. And Grigoriy Cantor ends up winning for Webster. This was a great round for Webster. And now Webster is taking the lead by quite a lot. 6 points, Joe. 6 versus, no, more. 7.5 versus 4.5 is what we're going to be getting. This is just 1 point away from winning the whole match.
That's crazy. And yeah, this endgame, 2 pawns and bishop versus a rook. We see the pawn, the king, the bishop, checking the king, skewering it to this promotion square on g1. Black's just going to promote, and that extra pawn's going to win them the game. So, wow, what a crazy, crazy third round. Webster taking a huge lead, 3 points, as you pointed out. And now they only need 1 win in the 4th round to secure the match win.
I don't know what Webster did during that break, but whatever they did, I want to do in every chess tournament, because they just came back with a kind of fire that is amazing to see. Webster is now back being its normal Webster. There's still 1 round to go, but if Webster just wins one of the games, it's over. So Texas Dallas needs a miracle right now to turn this around. And I mean, I don't know if we're going to see that, Joe. I don't know if we're going to see that.
Dallas needs a 4th round sweep just to win in regulation. They could force an overtime. They're allowed 1 draw, but odds are Webster's going to be able to clinch it out, and they're going to prove why they're undefeated and perhaps remain undefeated until they have a big in-city rivalry match next week against SLU, who we're going to actually watch after this.
Yeah. That's going to be a really fun match to follow as well. But here we have round number 4 is starting at any point. Joe, what do you do when you're in this sort of position? Do you just go completely G4, H4 every game, just throw everything you have at your opponent? Or do you play a little bit more solidly and try to wait your opponent out a bit? What would you do?
It's tough. I mean, you just have to play your position. Obviously, knowing that you need to essentially win on every board is a tough task. So changing it up, like, it actually favors Webster, knowing that draw odds are essentially good for them, right? So it's kind of like an Armageddon in a sense. Like, if you get 2 draws, you win the match, and there's 4 games. So I don't know. I think at this point, Dallas just has to play the best they can. Probably you don't want to change up too much, but risks at certain points are definitely going to be needed. And in a time scramble, that's when you're going to have your best chance to shine.
Yeah, But I still like that we're seeing from Ivan h4. It's kind of saying that he is going to be playing a little bit more aggressively, and that's what I thought that we were going to see over here. We have now the board ones playing the board ones, the board twos playing the board twos, etc. So they're playing the respective board of the opposing team. So this should technically be the closest match. Did we just see King D8 being played, Joe?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with this theory. Okay, what's the king doing, Nana? Where's he going?
I mean, I am wondering that too. Is the king going to b8? Why are we doing this? The rook on 8 doesn't even want to stay on a8, does it? Why are we doing this? Is the knight going to b6? Bring up the bishop? I am really not familiar with this.
Yeah, Aram is teaching us all how to play chess again, I guess. So, yeah, I've never seen this myself. Aram seems to be playing it quite confidently. He's actually up on time, and the eval bar kind of agrees with him. I think when the position is so closed, you can afford to do things like this. But yeah, opting not to castle into Ivan's attack, perhaps, like White hasn't castled either. And yeah, I don't know. Do you guys think they're setting up for a 960 position?
No, Joe, I don't think that is what's happening, but I am very confused. I like that he didn't castle kingside. Obviously, I do think that that would have just given unnecessary risks, but now I'm starting to understand the plan. Finally, Joe, I understand it. A5, you want to go rook a6, rook b6, and then king b8. I think that is the plan. So instead of going long castles and getting a rook towards the middle where it's all blocked by a big chunk of pawns that are not going anywhere, what you're doing is that you're placing the rook on the only open file, and that is the B file. It's a semi-open file, but you're maneuvering the rook into it. So that is actually a super cool idea. I really like what we just saw here. Rook b5 with the idea that if rook b6, well, then the pawn on a5 is hanging. But now White is getting a few weak pawns too. How do you defend a4? You don't. You go f4 instead and open up the f file.
Wow. This is crazy. Okay, hanging the a pawn, but instead Black bringing the knight out. I like this knight move because we're opening up the bishop as well. So I mean, Aram, he's got himself a great position here. I actually like Black, considering these weaknesses and the double c pawns. White is opting not to castle. Yeah, bishop here, just a skewer.
That rook on b5 looks very beautiful, but it's actually right now just not great, and it's so not great that it's going to have to be sacrificed, because if you allow Black to take that pawn on a4, I suppose you're just going to be getting a really strong a pawn. So now that he has that if knight takes a4, those rook takes b7, and finally Aram ends up picking up that rook, and we see White taking with the c pawn, which I was surprised about, but it makes sense to not allow Black to get an a pawn, and White now wants to just lock the whole position in, but how White is ever going to win this, I don't know.
Yeah, this is really intriguing. I guess if the a pawn falls, then Black's a pawn becomes weak as well. So very interesting. And yeah, the players, I guess you got to know the rules before you break the rules. Neither side deciding to castle. We have a king on c7, a king on e1 that isn't castling. Really close center otherwise. This is not the happiest bishop. So the knight's looking good here for Black.
I would say that it's a very sad bishop, and what's even sadder is that pawn on h4. How do you defend that pawn? I really don't see a way. Maybe rook h1, but it feels like, well, the king is not running away too. I mean, Joe, this game is breaking all rules of chess, I feel like, and the only people that are able to play this way are grandmasters. I would never recommend beginners to play like this. It goes against everything. But if you're a GM of this caliber, then obviously you can break some rules.
Yeah, and we were mentioning this bad bishop. White's just throwing a pawn away here in the center to open things up for their pieces. But I love that you said, like, you could only see this kind of play by the grandmasters, although I would argue you could see these moves from like the lower divisions. But yeah, I guess only the grandmasters can play these positions well, because I'm sure they know what they're doing. But this is not the standard chess game. This is like out of left field.
It is. It is. Let's maybe check out some of the other games too, see if there's any chances on the other boards. We could check out game number 2 between Andrew McAvey and Jasser, because I'm seeing quite a pawn push. And once again, I think Dallas right now is just, they need to win. They need to get those points, and they're playing quite actively. And it looks like that is working for Andre. He seems to have a great position with this last move, d5, taking up the center. And if e takes d5, there's bishop takes b6. Winning a piece, as the rook on e1 would be targeting the queen at the same time as you pick up a piece.
Yeah, I love the rooks on the E and D files. And when you have this center control and this lead in development, you want to open things up. So d5, definitely the right choice. Opening up for the bishop, opening up for both rooks. So this pawn is not able to take. And I mean, yeah, Andre, he's captain for Dallas. He's board 2 right now. He's looking to take down a really strong player from Webster, Yasser Quesada Perez. This is going to be instrumental if Dallas is going to come back. But I do see we have another game. Actually, all the games look like the eval bars are kind of going crazy. Let's take a look at match number 3, Raul versus Harsha. It looks like maybe Harsha could be the one to get the job done for Webster here.
It looks like he has a great position. Instantly, I'm seeing a knight coming up to f5. Typically, you think that the bishop pair is really good, but right now, Harsha has an exchange more, and he has a very strong knight too. So that bishop pair in this position, well, now it's gone. But doesn't really matter that much. I think now we're going to see the rooks doubling up. Rook d1 looks very good. Obviously, want to be a little bit careful about rook g4, targeting f4 and h4. But it looks like with the rooks, you're able to get active really quickly. And we see even rook a4 just winning a pawn straight up. Rook takes a7. Resignation!
Oh, wow. That's not what you need from Dallas. But Raul just left. He gave up. He threw in the towel. And just like that, Webster gets the match win.
Webster gets the match win. I'm very surprised that he ends up resigning in a position where if he resigns, the whole team loses. Looks like he was going to lose. Looks like there's other games where Webster is winning too. So this is maybe not going to be the absolute decider. But still, you want to fight in team events typically all the way until the end to at least give the perception to the other players that there's hope left.
Exactly. You got to keep fighting, and maybe you squeak out even just a draw. Maybe you lose the match anyways, but these points are really critical for tie breaks. And after they lose here, Dallas, they were the 4th spot. They might get passed by Mizzou, another Missouri school, if not just by match points, by board points, right? So really big points on the line, perhaps an early resignation, but I think most players and viewers as well could have assumed that Webster was going to win the match, but still seeing some extra fight there, you never really know what's going to happen. So definitely a shocker, but we have a couple games left.
We do, and we see also that in game number 1, Ivan lost to Aram Hakobian, so another point for Webster. So it feels like now Webster is just coming back. It was a crazy start with Dallas taking the lead early on, but after the break, something happened, and Webster has just been playing so well. It all changed when Aram Hakobian won that lost game. I feel like that was the turning point of this whole match.
Yeah, that was definitely a critical moment. And that 2-point advantage for Dallas is what could have been. And that would have definitely kept them in the match a little bit longer. But we see Webster's really breaking it here in the second half. The team is unleashed. They're playing at their full strength. So they definitely woke up after round 1. In this game, this is board 4s. I see Grigoriy's got a brilliant position. Look at all of these white pieces, and a move like h6, definitely weakening this king here. Grigoriy's looking for a knockout blow here.
Yeah, h6. The question is, where does the bishop go? If you go bishop f4, I'm wondering, can you go g5 maybe as black? It looks like a fork, although I think that white has quite a lot of counterplay there too, but I think that is what white is calculating. Where does the bishop go? Can you take on h6? That is also a question. Bishop takes h6, followed by pawn takes g6. can you take on g6 now? I mean, there's so many. The position is so bad for black that you can even consider doing these sacrifices because the king is so weak and all of white's pieces are pointing towards it.
Yeah, a move like h6, this weakens g6, which is attacked by 3 of white's pieces and indirectly by the queen as well, opposite the king. And if you sack the bishop, bishop takes opens that up. So the computer wanted bishop h6, followed by the knight sacrifice on g6, a double piece sacrifice for the top recommendation. Instead, we see bishop takes e7 with tempo on the rook, and then black now sacrifices a piece back to open up the queen and pick up this piece. But white still has a huge initiative here with now 4 attackers on g6, only this 1 defense. But the computer actually didn't like that. It wanted f5, instead f6, keeping the g file closed. So this is still a very close match.
Now we have the typical situation where it looks like white just has a fantastic pawn on g6, but that pawn is actually blocking white's attack. And we see that Balaji, he actually shook his head a little bit after playing f6, as if he regretted not going f5. I'm wondering, did he mouse slip f6, or was that a plan? Because he seemed pretty unhappy with having placed the pawn there pretty quickly. So now he plays f5, queen h5, and how do you keep the attack going? You need to somehow break through h6, but it's not an easy thing to do with not a dark squared bishop anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, and so the knight can't really break through either unless you want to sacrifice an f5, but you're losing a lot of material to do that. And it looks like Balaji's been able to defend the attack. We see the sacrifice. He does want that knight to break through, but is it going to be enough?
I really do not know. A lot of times when you sacrifice a lot of pieces for an attack, you end up realizing that you don't have enough pieces to attack with. But this seems to be looking good. I thought he was going to take back. Rook takes f5, but black wanted to keep the pieces, so queen d7. But now this e-pawn is just looking so strong.
Wow. Yeah, the computer wanted queen d7 first before the trades, and now we see black. You mentioned rook f5. That was definitely a better move. Instead, we see pawn takes, allowing the knight to come in, and now e6 hits the queen, and looks like black is going to use the bishop and the rook to even this out. He's leaving these queen hanging.
Wow!
Oh my god!
It completely takes a turn.
Queen d4, pitting this rook and saving the queen. Now black is completely winning.
What happened if queen takes f4? Could you do that? It looked like the queen was just coming in, but instead we see rook e8 looks a little bit more passive. Still looks very good for black. Black is trying to hit that rook on e3.
The king is defending.
What is happening?
Bishop
wow,
check?
bishop check, yeah. Bring in the bishop. The king goes up to g3.
Check.
Can you go queen check, king h2?
The king is safe here. Bishop, maybe. Wait. Now it's even. Pawn push.
Can you go queen d1? Maybe check.
Oh
I
my
want
god.
to see queen d1 to get the queen up to g1 somehow, or the bishop. Now look at those pawns. This game is insane. Can you go for the check? No, the pawn pushes are so low in time. 3 seconds. Pinning the knight. Where does the knight move? 4 seconds. Just takes the pawn.
Black's just winning. Black's up a bishop. Wait, check. Hold on, block. He's threading up. That's a check. Rook sack forces the trade. There it is.
Now it's rook. There it is. There's the win.
Oh my goodness. You see Grigoriy just completely missed that, and he's heartbroken, but his team still wins. But you could tell these points mean a lot to these players.
They do, and you obviously never want to lose. So going from having such a good position to losing is going to hurt no matter what. But that is a good win for Dallas. Like you said, they did need the points as much as possible. And I believe all the games are finished now. We see that the final score ends up being 10.5 for Webster versus 5.5. What a change. We could have seen 5-3 after round 2 for Dallas. Instead, the final score is 10.5, 5.5. I do think that they're going to think about that after that start. But yeah, Aaron Hakobian kind of started started the switch, and Webster just got this fantastic win now. Very, very, very impressive, Joe. Very impressive win by Webster.
That was crazy, the difference between the first half and the second half. It's like Webster had two different teams. We had the first half team ended up being 4-4, a tie. And in second half, Dallas only managing to get 1.5 points out of 8 games. Webster really brought it up a notch.
They did. And we're going to now be continuing to the next match. The Team Chess Battle continues tomorrow, February 26th. It's a face-off of commentary duos as Robert Hess and Daniel Naroditsky take on Peter Svidler and Jan Gustafsson. The teams will banter their way through the match with $25,000 on the line. But who will advance into the semifinals? Tune in tomorrow to find out and use !battle in chat for everything you need to know. We have more CCL Team Chess right after this break.
So d4, d5, c4. This is the Queen's Gambit and this is the starting position for this course. My name is Kamil Plichta, I am a FIDE master from Poland. This course is going to be suitable for people of all levels, especially since I'm going to teach you attacking play, aggression in chess, gambits, compensation, all kinds of dynamism, imbalances, and in general we have one target. This guy here on e8. You might be like, yeah, this has to be some marketing stuff, it's impossible, come on, you just can't attack with d4. Think about it. Alekhine, Kasparov, Botvinnik, Mamedjarov. They played d4, this was their main opening, so I suggest queen e2. This is a better way of playing. We are hitting the knight goes to f6, and now we are not slowing down. We sacrifice the second guy with d5. d is a big threat, so takes, and rook d1. And just see this, for the cost of 2 pawns, we already have huge pressure on black's position, and after bishop e7, knight c3, black really has to walk a tightrope to survive this. There are 9 games featuring this position, white's score is 7 out of 9.
The Variants Community Series continues on January 4th with Crazy House, where you can add your opponent's captured pieces to your own arsenal. 6 weekly arena tournaments held every Thursday will be followed by a championship event with cash prizes, including a $1,000 first place prize. The third and final weekly arenas will be streamer arenas featuring gifted subs as prizes. Win any of these events to qualify for the championship and show the world what you've got. Join the Variants Club today to learn more about upcoming events, how to participate, and much, much more. See you in the arena on Chess.com.
Obviously, don't go and do that.
Now, you do whatever you like.
We can't condone anything of the sort.
No, we can't live!
I'd classify trading as a game really that you're playing with competitors and basically every market participant in the world. My path, I came in as a poker player, but I think that the main thing that everybody has in common is a sense of competitiveness and interest in gaming and strategy in general. Yes, you can actually use gaming skills for your career and for something to do on a day-to-day basis.
Welcome back to week 5 of the CCL spring season presented by SIG. So what is SIG, you may ask? Well, in this week's Career Opportunities for Chess Enthusiasts segment, Chess.com's Casa Corley caught up with Grandmaster Andrew Tang to learn more. Let's take a listen.
Hey folks, Casa Corley here, head of community at Chess.com, and I'm joined today by Andrew Tang, Grandmaster Andrew Tang, who's also a newly minted trader at SIG. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role at SIG? What are you up to? What does your day job entail?
Yeah, so SIG is a proprietary trading company, so they trade their own money, and I've been working for a bit over a month now, so I'm a new quantitative trader. Also, SIG in particular is known for its gaming culture, and yeah, I think it's really cool that they support people who like to play like chess, poker. They teach poker in the internship and when you're a new quantitative trader, so all of that I think is really cool.
Why should more chess players be interested in trading at SIG?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're a chess player, probably, you like to compete and you like to win at mental games. I think trading is just very similar, and you're just really competing against other people in the market and trying to outsmart them. And I think succeeding in that is a lot of fun, but also it's a great job opportunity. So basically you can do what you like and have a great job at the same time.
What advice would you give other chess players that might be looking to get a job at SIG?
Yeah, so, well, there's just applying. You can just apply, but for, people who are, still freshmen and sophomore in colleges, SIG also has discovery days where you can get kind of an introduction to SIG.
Well, Andrew, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And shout out to your employer, SIG, for supporting the CCL, the Collegiate Chess League. Any final thoughts you have for the fans of the league?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks for your support. Thanks for watching. It was really nice to have events to play like the CCL when I was in college to help keep me fresh and not get too rusty. So just like to thank everyone for supporting and making this event possible.
All right, guys, when you're ready.
All right.
Frozen versus Kostya. Chess Dojo versus... What exactly is your brand? Oh no, my queen?
Oh no, my heart race, yeah.
Overly sized giant queen.
Oh, this is Kostya's pet line.
Chess is so good. It's not Kostya.
I haven't looked at the board once.
Eric is fast.
Go for a duty flag. Oh, that knight's not pinned.
Knight is not pinned.
Thank you. Okay. It's fine.
Fine?
Fine, yeah. Less stuff in the way. Oh! Wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Big time.
It's a sacrifice.
Back in it. Oh my gosh,
Wow.
what is going on here? That's not a move.
Oh, shoot. Oh no, my rook. Okay. Check, 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 check. Ah.
Did you tell him or should I?
Ah, GG. GG. Oh, good game. Whew. That was a workout. That's tough. Nice. Man, you did 5 of these.
Do you wish playing a chess game with a friend was as easy as sending them a text? Well, good news. Now it is. With Chess.com's new iMessage app, you can start and play
against Dr. Wolf as he explains everything step by step, points out strategic ideas, and alerts you to your mistakes. Train with him and go over your past mistakes until you master them. Choose from over 35 lessons created for all skill levels. No matter your level, everyone could use a coach. Download Learn Chess with Dr. Wolf for Android or iOS devices today.
Welcome back to week 5 of the CCL spring season presented by SIG. We are moments away from our second match of the day. University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley versus St. Louis University. This is number 2 in the standings. St. Louis University is right now ranked 2 versus number 3 in the standings. So this is a huge matchup that's going to be very, very, very important. You can see here the standings. Joe, how close do you think this match is going to be?
Well, that's a great question because St. Louis actually has a player who's competing over the board right now. They're board 4. So this could be University of Texas's chance, their opportunity to take down one of these St. Louis teams, give them their first loss of the season, and leapfrog them in the standings. UTRGV can take second spot if they beat SLU here today.
It's a really important match because of that, and we just saw Webster having a fantastic match, but SLU is a very, very, very strong team. I mean, coming in today, they had the highest season accuracy and the best average score. So even if we saw Webster killing it, I mean, St. Louis University has been really killing it this season too. So these are some of the favorites to win the whole league as well. So I'm very excited to see how they're going to do today, if they're going to be able to take down UTRGV, or if Texas will be able to do something good with the fact that they're missing one of the players, SLU. We will see how much that impacts them.
Yeah, that could definitely be a difference maker if they're playing down a player, or if they could sub someone in real quick. That's still a huge opportunity for them. But as it stands right now, SLU might actually be playing down a player. So a bit of drama for this board 4. SLU maybe double booking some matches. Actually, I think they had another player that was playing, but his game finished early or on time. So it's tough. There's a lot of chess on the weekends, and SLU obviously one of the top teams to beat, but maybe not prioritizing this match perhaps as much as they probably should have. So this could be UTRGV's chance to take them down.
Being a player down is huge. Very, very, very huge. So yes, this is definitely a chance for Texas to take them down. This is a bit of drama, Joe. I wasn't expecting this little drama, but that is what happens sometimes. So we have here the board assignments. We can see the different players. Once again, very, very, very strong St. Louis. We have Nicolas Theodorou with a rating of over 3,000 online, followed by board 2, Grandmaster Benjamin Bok. We all know him. He was hosting last week when I was gone. Also very strong Grandmaster. Grandmaster Robbie Kevlishvili, super strong as well. And then I suppose that it would be Batsurin that is not playing today, Joe. Am I correct?
That is right. He's just going to be missing in the early rounds. We'll see if he can make it later. But SLU, to start, they're going to be playing a man down. So this is actually kind of crazy because those top 3 players from SLU are so strong. I just kind of like think it's still going to be a close match. But what do you think?
That would be insane.
He might join late, so he might be missing this first round. He might be missing the whole match. But this is definitely UTRGV's opportunity to strike back and get a win. So I'm actually really excited to see if they can do that.
Let us know in chat if you think that UTRGV is going to be able to take down SLU after this incident. We don't know if Batsurin is going to be gone the whole time, if there's going to be a board 4. We don't know what's going to happen. But for now, the maximum that SLU can do is win 3-1. They cannot win 4-0 at this point. So the games are about to start in any moment. We're going to be following the top 3 boards, obviously. And yeah, like you said, the players are so strong that St. Louis might still even have a chance of winning. But I think that would be crazy. I mean, a team playing a man down winning is just, yeah, almost unheard of, especially because we know that Texas Rio Grande is a very strong team too, and they've been doing really well this season. So we will see what happens. The games will start at any point. The players are pretty much ready. And I wonder how this is, how Texas Rio Grande is going to feel. Are they going to feel a lot of pressure because they have to win? No, SLU is a man down. I don't know. Or maybe they're just going to enjoy the moment.
That's a great question. Honestly, though, for SLU, to be missing any player, you want it to be your board 4. But to be fair, Batsurin, he's a grandmaster. Like, he's a strong player. They were definitely going to get some points. So we have the game starting. We're watching Bok against Jacob Fuss. So Bok, he's their team captain, and he's obviously a fan favorite. He's a streamer. We've got some hype fans in the chat, I'm sure. But yeah, he's over 3,000 blitz, but he's got the black pieces here.
He does. And where is he? It looks like he is in some sort of new place. I'm not really sure where he's at. But anyways, we see here the position. It's looking like white is getting a lot of play, but this is a kind of similar or typical, I mean, a little bit kind of, not a hedgehog, but a little bit with that pawn structure, kind of hedgehog position, where you're being a little bit slow with black, but at some point you're gonna be pressuring the center, and you're gonna be coming back, and you have your pieces developed. You're gonna be bringing in the rooks. Sometimes maybe you can even play d5. You're kind of just saying, hey, I'm gonna be waiting a little bit and see what you do as white, and then from that I'll react. So the rooks are coming in. It's quite easy to play for black, I feel like. Even though the eval bar is heavily favoring this for white, I think this is very playable.
Yeah, white, they've got a very solid structure, very strong center, both rooks in the center as well. So white ahead in development. You can trade off this bishop if you ever want to. That's very thematic. And yeah, black just slightly behind in development and less space overall. So Jacob Fuss, I mean, he's also up on the clock, and look at him. He looks very comfortable. That is a giant, comfy chair right there.
It is. I want to play chess in one of those. I feel like your elo must go up by 200 points if you're this comfy when you're playing chess. Very jealous of him right now. But yeah, he seems to just enjoying his time. He's over a minute up, very comfortable position. Love the space he has. Obviously, sometimes you can overextend when you have this sort of space, but that d6 pawn is looking so weak, forcing the bishop to go back to f8. The pawn will forever kind of be weak, it feels like, unless you can play d5. But with the queen on c7, it looks a bit hard. Maybe you have to go rook c8 and queen b8 to try to prepare d5. But now if queen b8, the pawn on b6 is hanging. So what do you do? Do you go bishop a8 to then go queen b8 and defend the pawn? I mean, these are a lot of passive moves that you have to do. It's definitely white that's keeping the edge at this moment.
Yeah, I love this position for Jacob, and you called it out too. Bok, he's like not even in his usual setup. He might be traveling for another tournament or a competition or something. Like, yeah, if we're going off of comfortability, not only on the board but in person, Jacob is winning on all fronts here. He's got the chair advantage. That could be the biggest advantage in the entire match.
Yeah, he does. He does. He has the chair advantage. I'm going to buy a chair like that at some point. The day I want to turn GM, I'll buy a chair like that. But we can maybe see what's happening on the other boards as well. We can maybe check out game number 3 between Grandmaster Robbie Kivlishvili and International Master Sean Rodriguez Lemieux. So it looks like Robbie has quite a nice position. What is happening? There's a bishop hanging?
Yeah, rook to e5 check and bishop e3 block. There goes the bishop. So Robbie looks like he can't castle, and there's like this knight that's gonna come back. I'm not sure exactly how this game happened. I'm gonna go back and see. But I do want to point out it shows Sean is an IM, but he is a GM elect. He made all his norms and the rating. He's just waiting on FIDE, who can be a little slow sometimes to upgrade that title. So he is basically a GM. But yeah, I like how this is being played so far by Robbie. He's looking to trade off this strong rook.
Yes, and the knight on b7, even though it looks a little bit weak right now, it's going to be a very good piece being able to come back to c5. I did like white having the rook on a1 in the sense of the a7 pawn being so weak, but the a7 pawn is anyways going to forever be weak because of the bishop on e3. So after white trades rooks and you go maybe king c2 or king c1, you bring a rook to d1, then you try to go rook d7, and what does black do? Okay, well, black is now going rook b8 with the idea of threatening the knight and getting out of this hold of the a7 pawn. And I suppose the knight will have to go to c5 back, blocking the bishop. But first, we have a trade of rooks.
Yeah, trading the rook, bring the knight back. Sean does have the bishop pair, and there are pawns on both sides of the board. It is fairly open. So that is Sean's compensation here. But white is just up a pawn and looking to maybe bring the king out to bring the rook into the game. So we see a5 looking to trade. I would definitely take and, yeah, maybe play for b4.
Yeah. Could weaken c3 a little bit, but it feels like you want to go b4 at some point, but you're not in a rush because there's no pawns there. You can go b4 at any point. And I just saw a little message, someone saying, come on, Sean. I love when people in chat are rooting for whoever it is that they're rooting, and they're just, you know, wanting their favorite player or team win. So keep on rooting. I'm sure that these players are going to watch back this stream, and they're going to be very happy to see your messages. So keep rooting for whoever it is you want to win.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of Sean fans. There's a lot of SLU fans. I know there's some Bok fans. Even the last match, I actually saw one of the sub players, Anna Sargisian, was tuning in to cheer on her team Webster. So if you're a fan in the chat, let us know who you're rooting for. I suspect there's probably a lot of Bok fans. But fun fact about Sean Rodriguez Lemieux, he was also one of the youth champions of the world. So I think UTRGV actually has 2 youth champions on their team. I'm going to double check who the second one is. Maybe someone in chat actually knows before me, but let me check.
Yeah, let's see if someone knows more chess history than Joe, our expert. But we see now bishop d6. I'm wondering when white is going to go b4. It really feels like the kind of move you want to do. I'm wondering if the reason he's waiting is because he wants to go b3 and c4 at some point, but because those bishops are pretty easily being able to block the pawn pushes. But no, we see b4, which looks so logical. And I just love white's position. I mean, that extra pawn that white has is not any extra pawn. It's a pass pawn that's protected, and it's beautiful. So definitely Sean is in some trouble this game. We will see if Robbie is able to take this home for St. Louis. And I think maybe, Joe, we should check out game number 1 as well. We never checked it out. Board 4 versus board 1 of St. Louis. Theodoro, how is this going?
Yeah, Theodoro, he's the second player from the SLU team that has a rating over 3,000. So definitely one of the favorite. He's the top rated player for SLU and in this match. But I did see the second World Youth Champion from UTRGV is actually not playing today, but it's Viktor Gajic, who we've seen play earlier on in the season. But that's kind of crazy. Your school has 2 players that are former youth world champions. So UTRGV definitely has some talent. But SLU looking to take them down, and they were the favorite, but I think being down a player is going to change that.
It's definitely going to change that. And Joe, you talking about the Youth World Championships, it brought me back memories of me competing in Youth World Championships. But unfortunately, I never won one of those. But they were very fun tournaments, and my dream was always to be a World Youth Champion. So it's a huge accomplishment. I mean, it's as big as it gets when you're a kid to be the best kid in the world, pretty much.
Yeah, and now these kids are off in college, and they're looking to be the college champions. But this is just a regular season match. SLU, they're 3-0. They had a previous match rescheduled, but this could be the end of their perfect streak, right? They haven't lost a match since last season. In the regular season. So yeah, they won the playoffs. These are the defending champions, but UTRGV maybe going to change that today, giving them their first loss.
Yeah, and I do find it so shocking that, SLU being such a perfect team in a sense that they may go down because of this situation, because of this incident. So hopefully we will be seeing a board 4 at some point today, but let's check out this game. So it does look like Akin is able to do a great match versus Theodoro. I mean, like you said, Theodoro is the strongest person in this match, over 3,000 rated. He's facing an IM, and this IM is just killing it right now. Look at that control of the B file. Looks very good. I suppose we will see either a rook exchange, rook B2 going back. Okay. And then maybe I was thinking knight a4. Can you go knight a4, rook b6? I'm trying to double up over here somehow on the b file and take advantage of the fact that you have this in control. But black instead is probably going to play for f5. That's what it feels like he's setting up for with the knight on h6, the bishop on c8, somehow trying to play on the king side. And we're going to see a typical queen side versus king side situation here, I think. And no, we're seeing knight f7 instead.
Yeah, this is a retreating move. Theodoro is saying, all right, I see this f5 break, but I don't think it's going to work out. Queen and rook doubled on the b file. Osner is dictating the pace here, and we see black, bringing pieces back to the queen side to help support and defend, defending this d pawn. And I don't know, is the knight going to join? Is the bishop going to join in? Okay, targeting this pawn.
Rook c6 at some point. Rook takes a6. What happens then? Can you do that?
Rook c6. There might have been knight a5, and the bishop's attacking the rook. There's your f5 break, but the computer hates it.
Yeah. The computer doesn't like it. Now we're seeing a bunch of traits, but this just looks so good with the rook on b6. I mean, now a6 must be hanging at some point. I know that white is not picking it up, but that a6 pawn is not going to be there for long, I feel like. That pawn can be picked up at any point, and that's going to be a huge result for Texas Rio Grande if their board 4 is able to take down SLU's board 1 in the first game.
Yeah, that's huge because obviously SLU is down a player, right? They need to win to come up for that. And if your top board is going to lose to the fourth board, I mean, holy smokes, we could see just a devastating attack. And look at this, queen b2, perhaps threatening now. I mean,
just picking up all the pawns.
Yeah, Sean's mopping up everything here.
Yeah, if rook moves, queen takes e5. I mean, everything is hanging here.
Check. It's going to be mate.
It's going to be mate, yeah.
GG.
Yeah, it's over. Wow. Crazy win for International Master Ekin Osener, board 4 for Texas Rio Grande, taking down the board 1 of St. Louis. This is huge. If you're a player down, you have to argue that the rest of the team can win all the games. Otherwise, you just lose, and that is what's happened here.
Theodore is shocked, and Osner, it's just another day in the office for him. He's just chewing on some gum, on a snack. He's got his hoodie on, and UTRGV, they're leading 2.5 to 1.5. But we saw this in the last match as well. Texas with a 1-point lead over a St. Louis school in the first round. This isn't over yet, but obviously different circumstance. I don't want to put SLU away yet because their board 4 still might show up. But right now, UTRGV has the lead.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of deja vu from the previous match, but we will see if the outcome here is different, if Texas Rio Grande is able to keep the lead throughout all the rounds. We are now going to be starting round number 2, reminding everybody that there are 4 rounds, so this is just the beginning. There are still lots of points to be taken, and round 2 starts now. So, Joe, do you want to maybe start with game 1? We can check out what's going on there.
Yeah, we have that game pulled up. Theodoru versus Jacob Fuss, and Theodoru coming off of a first round loss to a board 4. We were just pointing out how good the SLU stats are. They had the highest accuracy, the highest percentage in scores. This is definitely not what we're used to seeing with this team. And Theodoru, he's have to pick. That might be his only loss to a board 4, like, ever.
Yeah. I mean, SLU also won the previous season of the Collegiate Chess League. So we're talking about a team, a favorite team to win the whole league. So this is definitely breaking news in the Collegiate Chess League, I feel like, that we're witnessing right now. So we're going to see what happens here. We have Jacob Fuss once again with a very comfy chair. And knight d7. I mean, I feel like white played a little bit of a passive opening. Knight of 3, b3, obviously very playable. But is that what you go for when you really just want to win a game? Not really, maybe. It is a little bit more passive than other openings.
Yeah, we see not a single pawn here for white has made it to the 4th rank. And the only piece in black's position, Jacob is immediately contesting knight back to d7, looking to trade off this knight. And Jacob Fuss, he drew against Bok in the first round. And Jacob Fuss is also one of the lower rated players from UTRGV, right? He's not even the top board. So he drew one of the 3,000 plus rated blitz players from SLU, and in round 2 he's got another 3,000 plus rated player to take on, Theodoru, who his teammate just beat. So Theodoru, he's got to get points back on the board. Jacob Fuss, he's going to look to continue some smooth sailing to get some points for his team. And I don't know, I'm shocked. Someone in chat actually pointed out this is Theodore's first loss of the entire season, not just losing a board 4, but he was 10.5 out of 11 like you showed. He had only 1 draw, and now he's got his first loss.
And look at Jacob Fuss. He looks so calm. I aspire to feel like him when I'm playing chess. It looks like he has everything under control. He spent 3 seconds. Look at that time difference on the whole game. And it's just getting a better position. Look at that eval bar just constantly favoring him. What is going on? The d3 pawn is just hanging if you want to get checkmated. So do not take the d3 pawn because you're going to get checkmated.
It's not hanging quite yet, Anna. Not quite yet hanging. But okay,
I should know better than thinking that Theodore blundered a pawn. But I'm sure that a lot of people in chat must have thought that I was hanging too. I mean, let's be honest here. I was not the only one that thought that for a second.
Yeah, f6 blocking the bishop. But wait, the pawn is hanging now. Pawn push, and this is actually kind of detrimental to our own bishop. So perhaps good for Fuss, but looks like the pawns are continuing. So even though Theodoru may be giving up the center control early on in the game, he is striking back now, developing the queen with a mate threat, inducing an f6 weakness, kicking black's knight out, and now playing d4, e4, controlling the center yet again with the bishops fianchettoed. Black trying to reinforce. And yeah, Theodore, he's still very much in it, but I do, like you pointed out, Jacob has that time advantage, he does look very comfortable. I think it's all in the chair.
I think so too. But I think what Theodore is doing was kind of like a little hedgehog position, very similar with the pawn structure. But this is very thematic for the hedgehog, where it looks like you're very passive. It looks like you're just kind of not really developing. Your pawns are very pushed back, but then all of a sudden you break through with a move such as e4. And now we see this idea of knight f3. Knight at e5 just looks so good. How are you ever going to stop that knight from getting there? It looks amazing. And if you do stop it, well, then you're going to get a pawn up to e5, and that's going to be a passed pawn. So I think that this is slowly but surely looking better and better for Theodorou. Feels like he's getting a little bit more confident too, and I'm excited to see if he's able to bring this back.
Yeah, and again, Batsuran, he's still not showing up. So this we could be witnessing a historic loss for this SLU team. Again, hasn't lost yet this season, and Theodorou as well. I mean, it's not only just the team doing poorly; it's the players as well. So, but three rounds left, including this one. So there are other games going on. We should take a look. Maybe let's check in with Bok, the fan favorite.
Yes, let's see how Bok is doing. Ekin Zenar did beat before Theodorou. Absolutely huge result for board 4 for UTRGV. So let's see what happens versus Bok. It is looking like a pretty balanced position. Once again, this bishop on e3, we've seen this a lot of times, the bishop blocking that e-pawn. But now that the bishop is on g2, it doesn't matter. And now we see that black is offering a trade of bishops, but white says no and brings up the knight up to d5. So Queen d8, the engine did not like that move at all.
It wants g4, Anna.
G4?
Forcing the knight perhaps into a pin.
Wow, and then the queen on d8 is just in a really bad spot. And if you're someone like Benjamin Bok, you see those things, he pushes g4, knight is attacked, has to retreat to f6, unless you take on d5 in between.
Yeah, if you take on d5, the problem is now your rook in the corner is hanging.
Yeah, so you're losing material, so you must go knight f6. You don't have time for this. So we see here a little bit the problems of being a bit undeveloped. But knight f6...
No, you can't go to f6 because you take with check and the bishop's hanging. So that's a free piece.
So this is just... That is true, Joe.
This is over.
What do you do? It's over.
Wow. Pushing the c-pawn was a big mistake, allowing the knight to hop into the center. And this was a key moment this is the only chance. Black needs to take the knight now, naturally not giving up the fianchetto bishop for the knight, instead bringing the queen back, and now Bok capitalizes it. He finds g4, trapping the knight, winning a piece for white.
That is amazing. That little slow move just, changed the whole game. So rook takes e5. The idea here being that if pawn takes h5, you just have bishop take d5. So you're doing a little bit of some sort of counterattack. But it looks so scary to have the queen on the same file as well. I mean, on the d file, it looks so scary. It feels like there's so many tactics right now. Knight c3.
Now the
offering a queen trade.
Yeah, and the problem is black has too many things hanging, and there's back rank issues.
Yeah,
because
black just has too many weaknesses. Wow, that is beautiful. That was so nicely played by Bok, and we see now that Ekin is just really struggling in this position, and I think it's just over. I think Bok is just going to win now.
Yeah, he trades queens, rook takes, trades off the bishop, but now he's got rook d8 check. If you block with the bishop, I mean, what else? Then this bishop's going to come into the game, or you could just take probably either of these pieces, and life is pretty good here. This knight's pinned, the rook is not active. We could double up. Everything's in Bok's favor, including the clock.
Yeah, and you have to take the bishop now, because otherwise, if you want bishop h6 immediately, I believe that it was something like maybe knight d7, and then the rook is hanging. on d8, and the bishop on g2 is actually defending the rook on a8. So you had to take that bishop there, but now rook d1 just stopping the knight from going to d7, and bishop h6 is just coming with so much force. How do you even stop bishop h6? Do you go king g7 maybe to try to get the king out of that pin?
Yeah, your move has been played, king g7, and now the computer wants bishop to f4.
Yeah.
Or you could play g5. I mean, yeah, the dark squares are all weak. Like, those bishops gotten out of the pin, yes, but now you have this other knight you have to worry about, and white's not letting up on the attack, and Ekin Oznir has no time.
Now, 14 seconds. Everything is hanging. Where do you go with the rook? You don't go anywhere, you resign. And that is what happened here. You leave the board, exactly. I mean, that was just a great game by Benjamin. Really instructional too. Very nice to see. We have now the final game that's ongoing between Grandmaster Gleb Dudin and Grandmaster Robbie Kevlishvili. So board 1 versus board 3. And it's looking pretty equal, same amount of pawns, similar pawn structure. Although black's pawns are a little bit weak. However, maybe white's pawns could get weak too. I'm seeing the b2 pawn, a2 pawn, e2 pawn could get a little bit weak, but there's a back rank as well for black to check out for.
Yeah, Robbie, he was the only player from SLU to get a point in that first round, and this match right here looks pretty even. It's bishop versus knight. Pawn structure is more or less the same. Maybe this white king is a little looser. A couple more pawn pushes in front of this king, but more or less this should be a draw.
And it feels like they're going back and forth now. Queen c8 was to defend the pawn on a6. And yeah, I feel like they're maybe going to be going back and forth a little bit. But I kind of like the idea of going knight d5 maybe at some point. That knight could be pretty strong unless there's e4. That could be the problem, and you're just kicking it away. Maybe you can go something like knight e3 check then, and then if queen takes, the bishop is hanging. I don't really know, but maybe it's more solid to just go something like knight e8 and threaten the bishop and continue from there and getting some air for the king. But we're seeing the queens going back and forth right now, and it finishes in a draw.
Yeah, there was definitely perhaps some moves that both players could have made to push and to be aggressive, and especially you mentioned e4 for whites, but potentially creating more weaknesses than advantages. So the players ultimately, they decide on a draw. And yeah, we have round 2 in the books.
We do. We have round 2 in the books. And even though St. Louis is a person down, they don't have their board number 4. It is right now tied 4-4 between SLU and Texas Rio Grande, which I think is just crazy, Joe. I was so sure that Texas was going to come in and sweep SLU because they're a person down, but no, SLU's showing that they're still so strong, and yeah, it's a tie so far. We have 2 more rounds to go, so we still have games to go. What do you think is going to happen, Joe?
Well, actually, we have an update. Even though Batsurin was late, the board 4 for SLU, he's actually back. He finished his OTV game, and he's going to be subbing in for the last half of the match. So this could be what SLU needs to break this tie. And props to their other players for keeping it close while he was gone. And that's bad news for UTRGV.
You are telling me that without him, it's 4-4? With him, what is it going to be? We will know very soon, because we're going to go on a short break. But then after that, we're going to be coming back to round 3 and 4. Don't go anywhere. We will see you very soon.
Well, hey everyone. We're here at the Chess.com Champions Chess Tour Finals, and of course, fair play is a huge topic for everyone around the world, as it should be, including questions like, can you actually keep a venue secure? Can you actually stop cheating? even if it's some of the most advanced spyware level stuff out there? The answer is yes, you can. And where I just entered is where the players enter. They can go directly to their rooms and back from here. But now we're gonna walk through as if we're a regular person. This guy's gonna say, you don't belong here. But okay, jokes aside. All right, now we're gonna get into the real stuff, all right? Players are brought down into this area before games at a scheduled time so that they have enough time to be fully checked for fair play. This right here is the private lounge area where only staff are allowed to have electronics. The players are not allowed to have any electronics with them once they've entered this area. But when they come early, they do so because they need plenty of time to get fully checked by our fair play tech. I'll try to talk a little softer because they're actually playing their games right now. But okay, at some point here, a player will come over and they'll wait in this line before being asked to enter the private fair play screening area. Once we're in this private fair play screening area, the players wait, only one player in here at a time. I'm standing here right next to a sir who looks like he has a fancy device. What's your name, sir?
My name is George. I work with the fair play department. My job is to detect cheaters, is to find out if anyone is trying to get a gadget that helps him win the game. That's not gonna happen on my watch.
Not gonna happen on his watch, okay. All right, this is a little bit fancier than the normal kind of thing you see in RFT scanner. What exactly is this doing that's different?
It's called a nonlinear junction detector. Its job is to detect any signals transmitted from another device outside or transmitted from a device that is on a player who's trying to cheat outside to a foreign sender. It can only be acquired from specific countries. It's not like a normal metal detector that you just buy on eBay.
It's a microphone. I guess I don't even know why we're doing this. I'm full of the things that are going to get detected. I didn't actually hide anything here, which is good to know. Maybe I should have. Okay, we're going to find out. We'll see. That's right. Don't assume anything. It's pretty phenomenal stuff. Thank you, George. This is pretty much just a bunch of cameras for the show. We do have cameras everywhere, so we're watching the players no matter what. Now, after they've been scanned, they are not allowed to leave this area, like, period, during active gameplay. So you're talking about an area that is maybe more secure than any over-the-board chess tournament that has ever been secured. That's what you're talking about, right? And I hope that watching this video showed you what we're doing. I hope you appreciate it. It's some pretty high-level stuff. I definitely am making a call to every over-the-board organizer to invest in their own nonlinear junction detection devices, because at this point, if you're not doing that, you're not doing it good enough, and we hope that you will consider investing in the same way that Chess.com has. We out.
I'd classify trading as a game, really, that you're playing with competitors and basically every market participant in the world. My path, I came in as a poker player, but I think that the main thing that everybody has in common is a sense of competitiveness and interest in gaming and strategy in general. Yes, you can actually use gaming skills for your career and for something to do on a day-to-day basis.
Welcome back to the Collegiate Chess League presented by SIG. We are back now, and Oh, Joe, this has been some dramatic few minutes during the break. Do you want to tell everybody what happened?
Yeah, so as we said, Batsurin, he's playing over the board right now. That's why he's late. That's why he forfeited the first 2 rounds. So SLU, they tried to sub in at board 4, but unfortunately they weren't allowed to do that mid-match because they already submitted Batsurin for their lineup. So the breaking news is Batsurin has finished his game and he's actually joined. So he's going to be able to finish out the rest of this match. SLU's back to full strength, 4 versus 4 chess. And I think at this point, match is tied. They should be the favorite to finish off the win, but UTRGV, they're going to look to give SLU their first loss of the season.
And we have a lot of collegiate chess left to be played today, but we also have plenty of chess coming up. So we can see that on Monday and Tuesday, we have Team Chess Battle, which is going to be very, very exciting. And then after that, we also have the Collegiate Chess League on March 2nd and March 9th. So don't miss week 6 and week 7. Me and Joe are going to be here and we're going to be bringing you all the action. It's going to be very exciting. But let's get back now to the rest of the match. So like we were saying, St. Louis, Texas Rio Grande, they were able to tie 4-4, even with St. Louis being a person down. But now with the full team, what will happen? That is the question. But Surin is back, and I hope that it went well for him in his over-the-board game. I don't know if we have any update on how he did, but he must have been very stressed knowing what was going on for St. Louis behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's tough. You have multiple matches in the same day. Maybe we can ask him later. We're definitely going to try to see if we're going to get a player for an interview after the match. So that's definitely something we would want to ask him. But before we learn about his over-the-board results, we're going to have to find out what happens in this match results because we have 2 very important rounds left. The match is tied 4-4. There's 8 games to go. It's anyone's match right now, but it looks like Theodoro is now playing against Sean Rodriguez Lemieux. So this is a big one.
And we want to remind everybody that we are watching right now 2 top teams. This is in the standings coming into this match. We have SLU as 2nd in the standings and UTRGV as 3rd in the standings. So this is number 2 versus 3. Huge match and very important result. So both teams really want to win. And if it's a tie after the 4 rounds, we are going to be getting this to tie break. So we're going to have a winner today. So we're watching right now the board 2 from Texas Rio Grande versus board 1 of St. Louis. Theodoro started with a loss, which was very shocking. But now we're going to see what he's able to do. He's playing against Sean, that you also said is a grandmaster, right? Even if it says he's an IM.
Yeah, the stats may be deceiving. He is a GM elect. He made all of his norms and the rating. He's just waiting on FIDE. So FIDE may be doing him dirty. If you're listening, FIDE, give him that title. Make it happen. He's earned it. But yeah, he's playing against Theodoro right now. And this is a tough one. Theodoro, he's got the black pieces. He's just lifted his queen. And he's about to get his bishop out to complete development. Meanwhile, Sean, he's actually down on time by a bit much here with the white pieces to start things off. Theodoro, he's gained time on the clock, and Sean, he's less than 4 minutes.
He is less than 4 minutes, but his position is looking quite good, and I am a kind of person that loves taking their time. So as long as your position is looking good and you're not completely losing on time, I think it's okay so far. So we're seeing knight f5 being the last move, offering a knight trade, saying that the knight on d4 is very strong, and so you kind of want to get rid of that knight. So if white would start trading knights, I think that black would be totally fine. So I like the fact that you're just keeping everything. So rook e1, just activating the rook, asking black, are you going to spend some time exchanging everything? Or what are you going to do?
Well, one of the key differences in these sort of positions is that black has what we call the IQP, isolated queen's pawn. And with the move knight f5, I would have actually elected to trade, which maybe is counterintuitive because you're helping this bishop develop, but we're leaving this pawn. And now when we leave our knight on d4, we're allowing black to then trade, and that's going to bring our pawn to be isolated. This immediately makes the position more even, more drawish. But this is what Sean Rodriguez Lemieux has decided to go for. And we do see Theodorou immediately capturing. And now he brings the queen and asking a question. Where does the bishop want to go?
And where does the bishop want to go? I mean, that pawn is hanging. Do you go bishop d3 with the hope that... I was thinking if knight takes d4, do we have something crazy like bishop takes h7? I don't even know. I don't think we do, actually, because the bishop just goes back to f5 and defends everything. But I'm starting to like this more and more for Theodorou, just like you mentioned, Joe. So I totally agree with you that somehow it would be nice to keep that isolated pawn and play against it instead of just having this structure instead. I suppose now the idea is that if takes on d4, you want to end up going rook d1 at the end, and you want to end up putting pressure on whatever piece plus the pawn behind. So that is what we're seeing right now, but I still think that black just has a really good position with that bishop on f6, looking towards b2. The bishops are so active. The bishop on c1 is kind of stuck. I'm really liking this for black.
Yeah, we see the material has been rebalanced. So white initially looked like they were losing a pawn, but Sean able to get that pawn back. But these bishops are just beasts on the open board. This bishop tied down to b2, and if you try to release that responsibility of defending well, then your rook's going to get questioned. So really, really annoying position for whites to try to get themselves out of. This is looking great for Theodorou.
It definitely is. And we're going to check out some other games. Maybe we can check out game number 2, see what Benjamin Bok is up to, a fan favorite. He's playing against Texas Rio Grande's board 1 Grandmaster Gleb Dudin. And I'm off the bat really liking the knight that white has on e5. That looks like a fantastic knight. Really like that. Feels like black is a little bit under pressure on the queen side. That b6 pawn is maybe a tiny bit weak. And I think that it's looking pretty good for white so far. Although, however, black has this great knight on d5 that's kind of hard to get rid of as e4 cannot be played.
Yeah, that's a great point. And this bishop maybe a little bit behind this pawn wall at the moment, although we can always try to go to a3 and open up our scope for the bishop. But I know you mentioned b6 is potentially weak. Maybe rook to b1 at some point is going to be played and try to double on the b file. So more or less, position seems to be even, knight versus bishop. But yeah, knight on a light square can never be contested by the dark square bishop. So I think I give the nod to Bok here for that potential endgame. I think the knight is going to be better than a bishop.
What I'm thinking here is 2 different ideas. The first one being to go bishop a3, knight c4, and then try to get a knight up to d6, which might be a little bit slow. But the second idea that I'm thinking about is if you can go a5 to get b5 played and then open up that c5 square and go knight d3, knight c5, and then try to put pressure on the a6 pawn instead. And maybe from that position, go e4 and try to take control of the center. This is maybe a little bit far, but that was just an idea that I had as well, maybe.
Yeah, so there's ideas for both sides. I think this is pretty much even position. So only major difference really, bishop versus knight, and black has 2 pawns, whereas white has 1. But you mentioned a5. This is sometimes called a minority attack, right? Your 1 pawn is pushing into there too on the queen side. So yeah, more or less even. I'm actually surprised Bok is spending so much time. He's got less than a minute and a half, whereas Gleb Dudin, he has over 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, Bok has played a little bit slower today than usual. I don't know if it's the new setting. It feels like everybody is super comfy at home with a PC, big monitor, and Bok is maybe sitting, I don't really know where, with a little laptop. It looks like maybe it's a little bit in a more uncomfortable setting than everyone else. Maybe that's making him play a little bit slower. I don't know. We're seeing now b5, so that is a pretty big move, actually.
Yeah, and this helps open up the a file for white's rook. This is going to isolate the b pawn. So yeah, it's actually really interesting to see what Bok's idea is, what his follow-up is after this trade. So he takes back, and now we see one of your many brilliant ideas, bringing the knight back, rerouting to c5. This is a complete outpost square. On e5, I liked it. It's a little bit closer to the king, but after this knight moves, we could see that knight get kicked. Instead, knight to e4. That's going to keep the knight out, perhaps, from c5 temporarily.
Yeah, and you don't want to go f3 because then the e3 pawn is going to be hanging. So I was wondering if you could maybe at some point go rook a5. But right now, after rook takes c1, feels like maybe you're giving a little bit too much control for black on that c file. I'm not sure, but rook a5 is a move that comes to mind to try to target this pawn that is very weak on b5. Maybe you can push b4 then, but then you can go knight c5 maybe. Then you're protecting that square too. So not really sure exactly how this is going to continue, but Bok is down in time by a lot.
Yeah, he's got less than a minute. He does go for this knight trade. Very interesting. This helps open up the bishop, and now b4. So I'm wondering, okay, rook lift, and now this e4 break looks like it's gonna come in. So I actually am not a big fan of how Bok is playing this, and he might agree with me looking at his time usage here. He's got 40 seconds.
He does. And I think that rook might even go to g4 at some point. The bishop with the rook, with everything. I really like his position, and the b pawn is actually just not able to push. So I much prefer the c pawn right now. We will see if there's any tactics. We see rook g4 right now. You have to defend it. If you go f6, then maybe white has e4, kicking away the knight and then taking on f6. So not an easy position to defend. If you go g6, I mean, then after something like queen d1, queen d4, you might just get checkmated. So very scary to do any of these moves, and a very scary decision to take with 15 seconds. Oh, he takes on c5, allowing rook takes g7?
Wow. I mean, Bok just saw all the lines you said and probably more and decided that's not worth it. I'm not saving it. I'm just going to grab a c pawn. And we see bishop takes. Computer actually doesn't like it, allowing the king to come out, but he was threatening discoveries, threatening the h pawn. King comes up. We have a check, but perhaps going to get blocked and attack the rook. And only then maybe we save our bishop. Maybe just bishop back, hitting the queen. Got to watch out for this check, but we have a hidey hole on h2.
We do, but we do gotta watch out for that b pawn, because even though it doesn't look like it's strong right now, if we start focusing too much on the king, it's very easy for it to start pushing. With the rook, the queen, and the knight, that pawn could become very strong. So we do have to watch out a little bit for it, especially considering the rook is on g4.
Yeah, this is a strong rook, but Bok, he's maybe going to bring his rook to the g file as well, and maybe try to neutralize the threat. But I love Gleb Duden. He knows he's better here. He's spending a lot of time because he has the time. Bok has no time. So as soon as Gleb makes his move, Bok is on the clock to answer back quickly.
We will see what happens in this game. It's looking very exciting. Let's maybe check out on Batsurin, as he just came in really quickly after his over the board game. He rushed in, and it looks like he has a winning position. So let's see what is going on here. Wow, is he 2 pawns up? And checkmating?
Yeah, it looks like he's checkmating, but this... Okay, we just resigned.
Okay.
Wow, so Batsurin coming in hot off the bench. He just finished a classical game, and now he's getting points for his team in the CCL.
This is insane. SLU winning on board 4 after forfeiting on board 4 2 games. Crazy. But yeah, he was getting checkmate even after the queen trades, because there was a back rank over there. So that was why we saw the resignation. So we go back to Bok's game, and what is happening here? Is there rook g7 check? Just winning the queen, basically?
Wow. That is actually a great point. I was actually watching Team Ball with Danny Wrench and Anish Giri playing against Christian Tra and Fabi, and they decided not to go for rook and minor piece versus queen, and they ended up losing. So we now Gleb Duden, he takes that. He says that queen, and now it's queen versus knight and rook. But it's very close. Low time for both sides. I definitely think the queen's the favorite here, though.
Yeah. I mean, queen looks amazing, but like you said, it can go south even when you are when you have a queen. Because at the end of the day, you are in a sense a piece down, right? Like black has a rook and a knight, 2 pieces to coordinate with, even though the queen is very strong. So you have to be careful though, in the sense that it's very easy when you're playing against the queen to blunder something because there's so many checks. But I mean, this is looking very good for white. I think it's gonna take a while to push that pawn, and it's gonna be fun to see how he's able to convert it though. Is
Oh
he just
wow,
gonna
he
draw?
just takes a draw.
He just
Wow,
takes a draw.
Gleb was worried. I mean, the 3 pieces here kind of are all protecting each other. Pawn defends the knight, knight defends the rook defends the pawn. So it's a little bit of a fortress. Like the queen could never really disrupt that, but the pawn could never push because then the knight's hanging. So white just says, I'm going to take the draw against Bok. He's a strong player, but definitely white had room to play with here. So perhaps a surprising result.
Yeah, definitely white had the upper hand, but I was telling you, I'm excited to see how white converts this. Well, we never saw it because it did look quite difficult, even though the Evil Bar said that they were a lot better. But we have here the final game that is still ongoing. It's looking very drawish. Queens, same amount of pawns. Maybe the e-pawn being slightly weak, but it doesn't really matter when there's just a queen left. It's very hard to attack it. You don't have any other piece to attack it with. So here, the only thing that I can see is black's plan of going e3 and trying to somehow create some sort of attack, but I think this is going to end up in a draw in any moment.
Yeah, there's the draw. So queen and 3 pawns versus queen and 3 pawns, and that's the end of the round. So looks like SLU is taking a 1-point lead, their first lead of the match.
And that is Batsurin, you know? When Batsurin wasn't there, they were tying. Batsurin comes in, he wins. Okay, extra point for SLU. We're gonna see if that continues because there is still 1 round left. But this is now going to be so important for Texas Rio Grande. They have to have a good round. They need to beat SLU by a point. They need to come back. Otherwise, it's over. But I'm really happy that we're still seeing such a close match and that everything is going to be decided in round number 4.
Yeah, that's crazy. But Surin is really the difference maker there. He comes in as that last board and he gets the win, and that point is what puts them ahead of UTRGV right now. And UTRGV, they're going to have to answer back. Do or die at this last round.
Yeah, do or die in chess. So, gonna be a very exciting round. But yeah, you can just tell how strong SLU is. Like, they've been playing so well, and now with Batsurin there, he was one of the first ones to finish. I don't know how he does it. He goes to an over-the-board game. Imagine if he won that too. That would be the crazy story. Wins over the board game, comes in here, beats really strong player really quickly, and then just continues his day. I mean, that is amazing by Batsurin. So we'll see what happens here now. We are seeing all the players playing their respective boards now. So board 1 faces board 1, and the games are starting.
Wow, do we have a Smith-Mora gambit here on board 1 from Theodoru? That's
we do.
Declined. Okay, so not going. We could have seen even a more gambit. So, but no. Okay, Theodoru playing maybe a fun little opening here, gambits to start. Do you have any experience with the Smith-Mora?
I do, playing against it, and there's one trap, Joe, I go for every time. It's called the Siberian trap, and I have a terrible score against Smith-Mora because I set up the Siberian trap every time. If you don't fall for it, I'll probably lose that game. But if you fall for it, I'll win. That is my one thing against the Smith-Mora. And now people have stopped falling for it. I think it's just become known theory. I am so sad. I need to practice my Smith-Mora theory. What about you, Joe?
So I play the C3 Sicilian, which is similar to the Smith-Mora gambit, but I'm a big fan of Mark Esserman, who wrote the book literally on the Mora. So definitely shout out to him, big fan of him. But no, we don't see it accepted. And I know you definitely like to play for your traps and your tricks. I actually played you just the other day. You wanted me to play a Karo Khan because you had this alien gambit that you wanted to try out.
I did. It's not my invention. I may have come up with the cow opening, but no alien gambits. So yeah, no, the alien gambit, no cred to me, but I did want you to play it, and I did a beautiful checkmate, Joe. I was very proud of that game. Thank you for telling everybody that I beat you there.
Yeah, definitely check. She posted it on her Twitter. So if you're not following Anna Cramling on her socials, be sure to do that because she's going to post some checkmate highlights, even at my own dispense, it turns out.
I can't believe that you're actually promoting my Twitter to have people see how I beat you in that game. Thank you, Joe. You're amazing. Best commentator ever. So let's continue here and see what's happening. This is looking very solid. Much more solid than Smith Mora games typically turn out.
Yeah, well, Gleb Duden, he maybe was worried about the mayhem that would ensue from the Mora, so he declined it. He played d3, giving the pawn back, and Theodoro, he eventually pushes the c-pawn again, and yeah, he was just very solid here. Rooks are connected, he's finished development, looking to perhaps trade off the dark square bishop. So yeah, very solid position here for Theodoro, and again, UTRGV, they're down by 1, so they're going to need some big points. Theodoro lost earlier today against the board 4, but maybe now SLU is back in full strength. They got Batsurin back. Theodoro hasn't lost since. This is going to be tough for UTRGV to finish this and even bring it to a tie to force overtime here in round 4, but that's kind of what I'm rooting for. I think that would be very exciting.
A tiebreak is always very fun. Let us know in chat if you think that UTRGV is going to be able to make the comeback. But yeah, let's maybe check out some of the other games. Game number 2 is looking quite exciting between Benjamin Bok and Sean. Looks like Benjamin has gone quite a nice position. Just played a3, kicking away the queen. And we have sort of endgame. But the problem with Black's position is how scattered the pawns are. That a5 pawn looking very, very weak. And if there's a queen trades, bishop takes c3, I guess the pawn will have to end up going to a4. But it feels like that pawn could definitely become weak. Or I guess you take with the pawn actually better. It's better to take with the pawn to open up the b file. And whilst the black rooks are on the e file, white can try to get some activity on the b file. So I actually think I prefer taking with the pawn maybe, if trades.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And if you don't trade, well, I guess the queen can come back and keep an eye on this pawn that's kind of weak. But yeah, very interesting. King is on f2, rooks on g and h. Not the normal setup. And black, meanwhile, they've played f6 to try to defend this diagonal. But I'm expecting g5, right? If you don't trade queens, if the queen stays on the board, then expect some pawn breaks near your king, because white is in a prime position to just tear open everything and get the rooks activated.
And that's the decision you have to make. Do you trade queens and get a kind of bad endgame? Or do you keep queens and get super attacked? So that is the decision that Sean is right now making. Because yeah, I think that g5 is coming with a lot of force. The e3 pawn is the one weakness white has, but it's super defended with that bishop on d4, which is actually another reason for after queen takes queen to take back with the pawn and not the bishop, because the pawn would be hanging. So bishop c6, trying, I think, to go a4 and reinforce that. And also so that when rook b1 happens, the bishop is not hanging.
Yeah, and just to illustrate how strong this G push was, the computer actually was calling for queen back to e7, a defensive move, but completely hanging the a pawn. So we see this queen trade, pawn takes as you called it, rook b1 also as you called it, and it looks like white is going to take the activity on the queen side with the b file. So really this position, opposite color bishops tend to be known for drawish tendencies, but here the dark square bishop is just so much better than its counterpart. This light square bishop is just boxed in behind its own pawns, and as you pointed out, a4, a move to defend this pawn, that's going to further make this bishop look more like a tall pawn instead of a bishop. So, okay, bishop coming into a4, saying, I want to also be outside the pawn chain. Get me to d3 so I can be just like this bishop on d4. But meanwhile, g5 has been played, and we could see this trade and maybe rook taking the g file as well. But yeah, black's still playing. Sean is looking for some counterplay.
One thing that is typically said is that a lot of bishop, different colored bishop endgames are a draw, but if you're attacking, if you're the color that's attacking, then actually it's beneficial for you to have a different colored bishop because it's going to be harder for your opponent to defend. And this could be a sort of position where we see that applying a little bit, even though the queens are off the table. But now I feel like the more that black trades, the better chances black is going to have. So we see now that Sean is just trying to trade everything. And yes, white could trade, go bishop b6 and win the pawn on a5. But just an extra pawn in a different colored bishop endgame is probably not enough to win.
Anna, I see Gleb Duden is actually beating Theodorou. If we're looking at that eval bar, we have to take a look and
Let's see what's
'cause
happening.
This is huge. If Texas can win against the top board, they're right back in it. So what actually happened in this game?
Let's take a look.
So last we saw, it was Amora declined, and it looked like Theodorou had a decent position with the white pieces, trading off opposite the queen and the king. So we see f6, f4 from Theodorou, trying to attack on the king side. And what went wrong? Wow.
Wow,
my
this
goodness.
tactic. b4.
b4, and now b takes c4, attacking the bishop and pinning the pawn to the queen. So really nice shot there from Gleb, losing 2 pawns.
That one mistake cost him 2 pawns, which is just huge at this level. Wow.
Yeah, Theodorou, he's got less time as well. And so this is Gleb's opportunity to take advantage of maybe a rusty or just not Theodorou as we're used to seeing. He could have 2 losses in the same match. He hasn't had a single loss this season.
Yeah, that is huge. I mean, we told you that today was going to be a very important day, but it might not just be important, it might be historical too. So we are about to see that Theodorou not looking happy at all. We see him just realizing how bad his position is. Obviously, it's 2 pawns down, but he needs to find some way of getting some sort of counterattack. And I mean, I suppose that right now the problem is that bishop takes d3, pawn takes d3. You cannot capture back that pawn because the knight on c3 is hanging. So black's pieces are just lined up really beautifully right now.
Yeah, and we see Theodorou, he trades off a pair of rooks. Now he trades the knight, pushing f5, trying to stir up trouble on the king side. But this is just 2 pawns up for Gleb. So yeah, I don't know.
It is. But we saw the Aram Jacobian game before where he was completely losing, and then somehow he was able to do a crazy comeback by creating some weaknesses. I think that is what Theodorou is doing right now. He's pushing f5. He's going to try to get that king a little bit weaker. Looks completely winning for Gleb Duden. We will see if he's able to win. Let's maybe check out game number 4. It looks like Ekin has a really great position versus Batsuren. Ekin has had a really good match, beating Theodorou the first round, which was huge. And now he's back at it with quite a good attack. And he knows that Texas needs to win if they want to win this match, or at least take it to tie breaks.
Man, they say everything's bigger in Texas, and Texas is really lining things up here for a big comeback win. They're down by a point, but they're winning on 2 boards, the board 1 and board 4. I mean, this could be SLU's first loss, not of the season, but like since last season. I mean, this is just absolutely incredible. These are the defending champs, you guys. What's going on?
I don't know what's going on. We see a draw on game number 2 between Benjamin Bok and Sean. So, yeah, there's still just a 1-point difference. If Texas is just able to win one of these games and tie the other ones, they're going to tie breaks. And if Texas is able to win 2, which is what it's looking like they're about to do, they are winning. Then Texas is doing the comeback of the century. And I love your little everything is bigger in Texas, Joe. That was great. I don't know if you thought about that for a while, but that was fantastic.
Well, I mean, everyone knows Texas is known for making things big. So that's like their catchphrase. Meanwhile, we see, okay, knights are trading, but white's just up a piece here. What the heck?
White is just up a piece. This is over in this game. I mean, there's a miracle that needs to happen. And also, Batsuren has 9 seconds left on the clock versus 2 minutes. this is the most winning position I have seen in my life. The pawn on c7 is hanging. The only thing that could go wrong is if somehow there is some checks. Yeah.
Some
real
perpetual or
checks,
something.
perpetual checks. Yeah.
H3 is such a weird move.
Now, why is he not taking? Wait, now it's looking more drawish?
He didn't take c7. He was maybe like scared. That's the one thing. This king only has one pawn, whereas this king has three. So the king is a little bit more comfortable for Batsurin. Yeah, I don't know why not taking c7. I guess there were some checks.
But the checks didn't seem to lead anywhere. So, huge result, by the way. Gleb Durin wins. It is now tied between SLU and Texas. We have a huge win. Theodoro has already left. Gleb Durin gets the win. Huge result for him with the black pieces. He's looking very happy. He's smiling. He just looks so happy. And that is, wow, huge result. Huge result.
Wow, he got the queen into e1 with the pawn on d2. Theodoro, he's out of here. But, I mean, yeah, SLU might go home early in this match because we might not even see an overtime. Actually, this other game ends in a draw as well. This might have been SLU's last chance to get a win. So it all comes down to their board 4, who was late, Batsurin. Can he pull off a miracle in this game? Down a piece to force overtime. It's tied 7-7. Winner takes it all here.
Winner takes it all. And I think he might regret his decision of not picking up that c7 pawn before. Because the thing is this. Yes, white is up a piece, but where is that bishop going? Okay, maybe you can take on h5, which is what he's doing now. But if you lose too many pawns as white, you will not be able to win anymore. So this is not as easy as it looks. Here you have to try to go for something like h5, I feel like, and try to break open the king. But it's not as winning as one might think.
Yeah, up a piece, it doesn't matter if the pawns aren't on the board, right? Because you can't checkmate with a bishop. So,
no.
But Batsurin, he's only got two sides. He's playing on increment right now. He could mess up.
He could mess up, but I think he's going to check. There's so many checks that he can do, and he's just going to try to gain time in that way. I am trying to figure out how you win this as white. But it's not that easy. It's really not. Yes, you can activate the bishop. You're going to want to activate the king. But if you just had that c7 pawn and was able to play with your d pawn, this would be a different story. So we see him now trying to activate his king. It would be crazy if somehow that king got into some trouble. But
2 seconds. Oh my god.
Oh, little time.
If he draws, it goes to overtime.
It does. Tie breaks. Anything can happen here.
1 second.
Wow.
Oh, the queen has to guard f7 now.
1 second. Listen a second. Ooh,
oh my god.
Point
oh
3.
my god. Now the queen can come in.
Queen takes c7 too is hanging.
Wow.
Should he take the pawn? I don't know. There's queen e4 check. Maybe you shouldn't.
Oh, he gives a check.
Oh,
the computer didn't like now. Is he gonna take? Can he take on c7 now? No. Wow, he might be letting Batsurin off the hook.
He's scared of losing his d pawn. That's why he's not doing it. Is he gonna lose some time?
Goodness.
No.
Who's gonna be the hero?
King g5? This is insane. They're both on 5 seconds.
There's mate on f7. Wait, he takes with the bishop. What?
Why? Why? What is happening? Takes with the bishop instead of with the queen.
Batsurin's gonna. Oh my god. Oh my god. Is there mate?
Oh,
check. He takes the pawn.
Takes the pawn.
Now the d pawn's passed.
Now he has something to play with.
Can he trade queens? No, he takes another pawn with check.
Wow, and now he can just push maybe.
Now he forces the queen trade. Oh my goodness. UTRGV. They complete the comeback.
This is insane. And he not even a little smile. He's just, did my job and then he loses.
Absolute Giga Chad moment. He comes from behind, wins the match, leaves. No, he's bad. Well, oh my goodness. SLU loses their first match since last season, and UTRGV leapfrogs them in the standings. They are now in the number 2 spot.
what a crazy match we've had. And I feel like in a way, Ekin Ozener is one of the heroes of the match because he was able to both take down Theodoro in the first round, but then when it mattered the most, he was able to take down Batsurin and get that very important win and bring Texas Rio Grande into the win. So amazing match, 8.5, 7.5, a nail biter. So close, but Texas Rio Grande wins. And this was definitely a surprise. I am sure that most of you thought that St. Louis was going to win, but no. We have Texas Rio Grande as the winners. What a match. What a match, Joe. I really want to get an interview in here. I am so excited to ask a bunch of questions.
Yeah, that was absolutely incredible. Comeback, perhaps even match of the season so far. I'm going to go ahead and call it that. UTRGV upsetting SLU 8.5, 7.5, and huge shout out to their top board, Gleb Duden going 3 out of 4, and Theodoro, who we called out, he hadn't lost a single match. He's held to 1.5 out of 4. Unprecedented performance here from the SLU team, and you can't help but think maybe if their fourth board was on time, this would be a different result, but it is what it is, and UTRGV steals one today.
At least I hope that Batsurin got a win in his over the board game. We will check that out, but we are going to be having an interview coming up very soon with the hero of the match in a way, Ekin Ozener. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss out this interview. We'll be back very soon.
Our once magnificent kingdom of chess lays now in ruins, our king slain. But some say that a new ruler will come and restore the realm to its former glory. Solve puzzles, fight epic battles, and earn gold, swords, and scrolls full of chess wisdom on your way to reclaiming the throne. Download the app today. And this month only, face off against your favorite kingdom character bots. Only on Chess.com.
Hey everybody, it's Danny here, and as you may know, Chess.com and Chessable are now one, and I'm here to show you how you can make your Chess.com and Chessable one in just a few clicks. To start, let's log in and connect our Chess.com account. I just scroll right here above the browser and click log in. Scroll down and click continue with Chess.com. Now, if you're already logged into Chess.com, it's just going to ask you if you want to approve that connection. I'm going to say yes, sir. But after approving, it'll bring you right back to the Chessable homepage. Now, the Puzzle Connect feature can be found under Tools, and you click Puzzle Connect. Now, what that does after you type in your username is it's going to pull positions from the games you played on Chess.com, create your very own personalized Chessable course, and then quiz you with the positions where you may have missed the best move. And the more you play on Chess.com, the more games it will have to quiz you as long as your account stays connected. It's pretty sweet, and it's going to help you get better learning from the mistakes in your games. Yes, this is a pro feature at Chessable, but if you go to chessable.com/link, you can get 30 days of Pro for free.
Your subscription makes shows like this possible, which is why our Twitch subscribers will never see ads on Chess.com. Connect your Chess.com account and Twitch account at go.chess.com/connect accounts, and bang, boom, voila, you're done. 100% ad-free bliss forevermore. Whether you're following our events on site or on stream, type the command connect in the chat, and thank you for helping bring these shows to life.
What's the best way to follow any chess event, from the World Chess Championship to the candidates, the Speed Chess Championship, Title Tuesday, and so much more? Chess.com/events has all of the top chess tournaments played both over the board and online. Analyze and review games from the world's greatest players with live commentary, cloud analysis, opening explorer, and table bases. Find all the key event information, including schedules, prizes, results, news reports, player bios, tie breaks, and more. Even compete by voting for your predicted results. Explore chess.com/events today on web or with our iOS and Android apps and experience chess like never before.
We are back now with the hero of this match, Akin Osnir. Congratulations. That was amazing to watch. You are the hero of this match, beating Theodoru in the beginning and then Batsurin in that very important last round. How nervous were you coming into this match today? And did you think that your team could beat St. Louis University?
Yeah, I was a bit nervous. The games went good for me. I won 2 games, and obviously they didn't have down the serve for 2 rounds. It's not something we want to see, but it kind of helped us, obviously. But yeah, we were. I cannot say we were expecting to beat them for sure, but we were here to play, and in the end we won, so it feels good now.
Yeah, that's a great spirit.
So, Akin, I actually looked up how you guys did against SLU last season, because SLU, they're undefeated so far this season. Their last loss was last season, and it was actually against your same team, UTRGV, beating them back-to-back in the regular season. I wanted to ask what it feels like to take down such a strong team, and do you think that your team is going to ride this momentum and maybe upset SLU maybe later on in the playoffs as well?
I mean, it feels nice to win a game. This was my first game in the season. I didn't know we were the only ones beat them last year, but I mean they have great players, they have a good team, so it's nice to win, and hopefully we will do good also in playoffs. But first we need to get to the playoffs. But if we play, yeah, I mean, hopefully we will get a good game and get a win.
Yeah, no, I mean, after this match, the question that is to ask is, when are you going to become a grandmaster? That is what we're all wondering. When how is that looking? When do you think you'll do that?
I don't know. I've been struggling with it for a long time now. Hopefully soon, but I don't know.
Well, I'm sure you'll get it soon. You took down a couple grandmasters today, so you're definitely at that strength. Obviously, blitz is maybe a bit more chaotic, but we had some fan questions from the chat. One of our viewers wanted to ask you, what's it like to have ice in your veins and to be the hero?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't know my game was decisive at the end. I was just playing to win and hoping, we will get 1-0 at the end. I think that's how we win. Maybe we get 3. I don't know. But yeah, I was just trying to get the best out of the game, and luckily we won it. Yeah, I had no idea what I was playing.
That's incredible. And also, your game actually was really dramatic because even though you're up a bishop, it could have been a draw at the end. So were you nervous about maybe losing that advantage, or do you think with his time pressure, you were still going to get the win?
Yeah, I mean, we're playing blitz, so at the end, it's yeah, a bit chaotic, and it's hard to estimate what's gonna happen. And as I said, I have no idea what was the score, so I was just trying to win the position, but I think it was also close to a draw. So I was kind of lucky. I think he made a mistake under time pressure.
Did you, when you heard in the beginning, or when you heard that SLU was lacking one of the players, did you think that it would be easy then for your team to win after you knew that Batsurin wasn't going to play? How was your team feeling then?
I mean, I know that they're playing a tournament, and it's obviously not good to you obviously want to play 4v4s, but it was kind of unlucky for them to not have a player. But obviously it helped us. Who knows how it's gonna be if we actually made it on time, but by getting just 2 points without playing, it's obviously helping.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us for this interview. It was so exciting watching your games, and congrats once again to your team for taking down SLU. We will be following you very closely in the future as well. So congratulations
Yes.
once again.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
We may not have more collegiate chess today, but we have lots of other chess in the future. And we can see that week 6, we're going to be having some very exciting matches. We have St. Louis University versus Webster University. I mean, this is going to be a huge match, very huge match. We have Texas Rio Grande versus University of Missouri. Also very big. We have Missouri. They're trying to get some top standings. We have Dallas versus University of Chicago. And then the 2 international teams, Athens versus Prague. So don't miss next week. It's going to be very exciting. And me and Joe are going to be joining you together. Joe, it has been so fun to be here again. I will not leave you for a while. I promise. I don't want to miss any more Saturdays. And yeah, it's been such a nail biter match. I mean, it couldn't have been a better comeback. It couldn't have been more exciting.
I'm
So
so glad you came back for this one. This was definitely one you didn't want to miss. So everyone that tuned in, thank you for watching. And I can't wait to see how UTRGV finishes the regular season after such a momentous victory today. And for SLU, can they bounce back? I think if they beat Webster next week, it makes up for it, and they're right back in contention to even maybe win the regular season.
for sure. But there's the pressure now. So do not miss week 6. March 2nd, we will be back at the same time. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.